always look for that piece to bring it to the end, and I'll let Doug talk for a second about the permitting piece of it and the authorization piece.
Yeah, for the record, Doug Wise, building official. When this was brought to my attention, the first thing I did is look it up. There was no application on file for it at all at anywhere during that time, so nobody ever filed anything. Apparently, questions were asked based on the documents that I read, and I wasn't personally involved. But generally speaking, a power of attorney is not acceptable for an owner-builder application because there's a very specific statutory provision in 489-103, parentheses 7, and it says, in order to qualify for this exemption, you have to personally appear. Now, I understand if it's a dead person, that's a different animal, but theoretically, then the estate can bring in a contractor or whatever. There's also like 12 other exemptions in the Florida statute that would have applied, but nobody asked the right question. And it's unfortunate. I think staff is done everything correctly. In my opinion, I don't think I can change anything that we did on the permit. I see the problem here, but nobody contacted me about it till I heard from Patrick and Whitney.
Mayor?
Please, go ahead.
Mm-hmm. So I don't know if it's a policy or something that we could help people, but if my father was in the hospital and couldn't physically show up to do an owner-builder permit, I wouldn't want to then have them have to pay thousands of dollars to get a contractor for something that, in my opinion, isn't life safety. A fence is not going to harm somebody or a gate, and yes, we can go down a crazy path of what ifs, but reality is most of the time a fence or a gate doesn't hurt people. And so I don't know what the ultimate answer is to this, but 17, even if it's 40% of what the original, I won't go down that path. I'm just saying $17,000 is a lot of money because of a gate or a fence to charge to the heirs of an estate who did try, but because of whether it's Florida statutes, our policies, or so on, couldn't actually do that application.
I guess the representative, my response would be the representative asked for the wrong thing. They asked for an owner-builder permit specifically. You can't get that. But if it's inconsequential, under $2,500 value, inconsequential nature, like what you're describing, that's another way they could do it. Anybody can show up as long as they got standing with the property. And had they asked me, I would have given it to them. But sometimes if you ask for the wrong things, we're processing thousands of applications. It's no excuse, but there was an attorney representing the estate, and, they didn't ask for the right thing,
I think it's sometimes hard to ask for something you don't know to ask for. I mean, you don't know what you don't know. And I just,
Yeah,
how do you tell somebody you should have asked if they didn't know to ask?
yeah.
So that's all I'm going to say, and see how my fellow commissioners feel as well.
Vice Mayor, you recognize, then Commissioner Barnett, and then Commissioner Marino.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that we postpone this till a time certain, that we can research it a little bit more in terms of communication between the estate and the county. And I'm sure that we could reach an agreement that would be fair, equitable for all parties. I think that many times $44,000 is it's a pretty nice gate. And I think that we need to really take a look at it. I appreciate Commissioner Baxter pulling it to review it, and I'm sure that our good staff will take a look at it, and we could have it at a date certain. So, Mayor, I would move to postpone this to a later date.
Okay, we have a motion by the Vice Mayor. Is there a second? Sure. We have a second by Commissioner Marino.
Can I make, I'm sorry, Sherry Brown, Director of OFMB. So the property owner agreed to the $17,000. The full lien is $44,000. So we do have an agreement with the property owner. They are trying to sell property. So by delaying it means that they can't move forward with selling the property either. So that would be a little bit, a postponement isn't great for them, but we'll do whatever you tell us to, but, just wanted for their benefit.
Well, we have a motion, unless you want to withdraw do you want to withdraw your motion? Okay. All right. Commissioner Marino, you're recognized. Okay, Commissioner,
Thank you.
Vice Mayor,
Thank you, I
please.
appreciate it. Thank you very much for that. But without anyone present to give us their opinion, I think we need to just take a step back. We could do this next week. We're here. But I think we need to hear from the folks whose fine has been assessed to them, rather than to push forward without their input. So without their representation here, I stand by my motion to postpone it until we can research a little better, and we could do this with their input as soon as is reasonably possible. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Marino, you recognize.
Thank you. Thank you for Commissioner Baxter for following up on this. I pulled this item off the agenda last month because I was a little uncomfortable with the amount also. And I understand the owners wanting to sell, and normally that's what happens is fines get paid when people want to sell their property. But if there is some further negotiation that we could do to lower this amount, I realize that they agreed on the amount, and they agreed on the amount because they want to sell the property. But when I pulled it last month, I was also uncomfortable with the amount for the fact that it was just a fence. So if there is something we can do between now and, I don't know if we can do this next week. Have we? No. Okay. If there is something, and I would be, I can't speak for the owners. I think the owners, anything that we do to negotiate this down, the owners will be happy with. But given the fact that it's just a fence and it isn't life-threatening, I would be inclined to go with about 50% of what's on this fine. So if you need a guideline, I think that would be one that I would throw out there.
50% of the 17,000?
Yeah.
So to do more of a 20% settlement?
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm sure they're going to agree to it if you want to make a motion for 20% of the lien. No, you wouldn't. I think the owner lives in California, the daughter, but I'll check and confirm if she's in town or if her attorney can represent her next week.
All right. Okay, so are you,
Making a substitute motion?
you can
I
do?
can. I seconded the first motion.
Okay, all right. All right.
I'll
Oh, well,
remove my second.
Oh, you're going to remove your second. Okay, so now we have a motion for postponement, needs a second. Okay, not,
I just don't want to hold up their sale, and if Commissioner Sachs, I just want to ask, is it something less, or do you want time to investigate more?
yes, please.
Thank you, appreciate it. Look, I'm an attorney. We don't have all the parties here. Maybe they want to pay the 17 and move on, or maybe they don't. But without their input, I feel uncomfortable if this is an onerous fine for someone, for an estate, then let's take a look at it and get some information back to us. But without the input of the folks who will be paying, I feel very uncomfortable to make a negotiation right now. So let's, unless there is harm, prejudice in putting it off for a week, I see no harm in revisiting this next week with the input of the people who are responsible for the fine. And that is my reason for giving them an opportunity to be heard. And that's my motion. The basis of my motion, put it off for a week. Let's hear from the parties, whatever they want to do. And if it's okay with the staff, then we move forward on it. And that's my motion, to put it off a week so we can hear from all the parties.
Okay, thank you. All right, is there a second to this motion?
I wanted to hear her thoughts before. May I speak?
I just want to find out if we have a second and then,
Okay.
or the motion. We do have a second. Okay, we have a second from Commissioner Woodward. All right, now, you're recognized, Commissioner Baxter.
I guess my concern is that if they're in California a week, they probably won't be able to be here next week. And for this instance, I do agree. I think the half sounded, I can't imagine they would feel uncomfortable with paying less money.
They were happy with the 17,000. We always start a little higher and come down. So they were very happy with the 17. So I'm sure if we went to 8,900, which is about half, they would be more than thrilled.
So I will make a substitute motion to settle on the 20% fee and let this be done for them.
Okay, we have a substitute motion by Commissioner Baxter. We have a second by Commissioner Marino. All right, we will continue on with our discussion. Let's see, Administrator, did you need something else to add in?
Just want to clarify the fact that before it ever gets to you, we've gone through a couple of rounds of negotiations, and both parties have agreed to this amount. So this is an extenuating circumstance, and so I think that they did agree to the 17. This board has the discretion, and you're utilizing it. And so I agree with Ms. Brown that I don't think they're going to turn it down because they agreed to the 17,000. And so it'll cost them quite a bit to get here within a week. But I do want the board to be rest assured that we do negotiate with the parties on these particular items before it comes to you.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's continue on. I think it's Commissioner Woodward and then Commissioner Marino.
Okay, thank you. That answered a question I actually had. You've been in touch with the owners of this and their representative. I'm assuming it's not the same representative that got them into this much trouble, right? Do they have?
They had a power of attorney with the owner's secretary who had worked for the owner for 30 years, I think is what her letter said. And the daughter is now the executor of the estate, and that's who we've been in discussion with.
So you've had like
Yeah.
phone conversations with someone, with
Correct.
her and people locally that are representing the estate?
Right,
Okay.
yep,
And they all came to this agreement, and we're
yes.
happy.
All right. Commissioner Marino, and then Vice Mayor, and then Commissioner Baxter.
Thank you. As to the procedure, Doug, I hate to say this, but asking the wrong question, they might not have known the right question to ask. Is there something in place that could help us educate when people ask the wrong question? And I know there's thousands of applications that come in front of us, but I've been I've heard situations and been in situations where the right question wasn't asked, and it made a lot of delays, but people in the room knew what the right question was. So I don't want to put more, I don't want to give you an extra burden, but if you know what the right question is, I know you're not an attorney and you don't play one on TV, but there is an attorney there. You could make some additional suggestions. I don't want to make your job more onerous, but I also don't want people to come into our building and have a problem with a permit or asking a permit or doing it the right way when we have the resources to give them the right answer.
Mr. Mayor? May I
Go ahead.
respond to that, please?
Go ahead.
We must be very careful in what we're recommending to people because we may not have all the facts. However, it is incumbent upon us to lay out options for people. But if we don't know someone has passed away, those options could be limited. We must follow the law, the statute, and the statute does not allow specifically for power of attorney in this particular case, but we will continue to look at it. We always want to lay out the options for our residents, but we should not be giving them legal advice on what to do. We must be very careful of that, but we should be laying out options that are allowed to them. And when someone comes in to do a specific owner, pulling a permit, that's usually what they want because it does cut into some of the other costs, reducing it. But again, in this particular case, it started before the gentleman passed away, unfortunately, and then now the daughter wants to settle it. And so I think within your discretion, you did exactly what needed to be done, and we'll look at what we're doing as far as laying out options. And that includes putting it in writing, so when they get an application, those options are there for them. And it's not staff recommending they do something specific.
Thank you. And I am comfortable with but you knew I was uncomfortable with this amount in the first place. So I am comfortable doing the 20% as opposed to the 40%. Thank you.
All right. Commissioner Baxter, then Commissioner Woodward.
Thank you, Mayor. When somebody comes into our building department and we know all the processes of our complicated system, is it considered legal advice to walk them through procedure?
Can I answer that question?
No, I'd say not. You would identify, and sorry, I'll let Brian jump in a second. You were asking that as legal, but just as a matter of practice through policy, you'll explain different things. I think the point Doug was trying to make was if someone's coming in asking for something very specific, you'll identify that can't work in the presentation they've made it. It's not so much that we're denying them other opportunities or other ways to proceed. If someone comes in, and we've had it in other practices, be it in zoning, planning, or building, where someone asks for something very, very specific, it doesn't work that way. That's all they want.
Yeah,
Every area has a little more leverage, and I'll stop and let Doug.
Yeah, there's a lot, every day I get a complaint, we gave them the wrong guidance. We didn't show them how to do it. And, literally, we're doing thousands and thousands of projects a month. We can't teach people how to be contractors. We just can't do it. I would love to have a Gold Coast Contractors School or Palm Beach County Contractor School. But that's not our job. And I know I make light of it, but one of the things I've joked around with my boss and talking about, why don't we ask for an extended warranty on the permit? Like if you go to Best Buy, you can get extended warranty. I can't do that either. I can't do all the things that they want us to do. We are pushed to the limit most days, trying to get it right. I guarantee things are going out the door wrong. We're not happy about that, but it happens, mistakes, as long as there's human beings in the process. So the bottom line is, I can't owner-builder proof anything. I can barely get it proof contractors, and if I'm lucky, I'll get it right with a qualified contractor who's been tested.
And I don't dispute how hard you work and how understaffed you are. I mean, thank you for what you do. Our residents are relying on us to help them. And so I don't know if that maybe looks at redoing our website and lining out those processes and procedures and maybe being able to point them to their options so you don't have to physically write it out. I think that might be a great starting point and make it user-friendly. I had suggested in a meeting that we do maybe some sort of software that lets you type in your address, and even getting off subject a little bit, just uses of what's allowed on your property, but something to help people help themselves. They won't burden down the building department, and they won't have to take up, time where they could help themselves. I think a lot of people are very tech savvy these days, so I would love to just see us move in that direction. So, thank you, and if you would like to respond to the legal part of it,
Sure.
please.
To answer your question, no, that wouldn't be a legal advice. I mean, it could get murky when you have a statute out there, and it may require legal interpretation when it gets, into a situation where there's a POA involved. So we do need to tread lightly. But as far as laying out options, what owners or applicants could do without a contractor would be helpful, and I think all parties would benefit from it.
Yes, thank you.
All right, Commissioner Woodward?
Thank you. I would like to withdraw my second for the postponement. If you've had discussions with them and they're out of state and we have local representation that's agreed to this settlement, I think we should settle this today.
Commissioner Sachs, or Vice Mayor Sachs, sorry.
Thank you. Since the owners have already agreed, there's no reason to postpone. I was under the impression that they had not, and they had not been represented. They are represented, they have agreed, we have a deal. So there's no reason to postpone it. I withdraw the motion. All right, thank you. And thank you for your work. Thank you very much.
Okay. The motion died because it didn't have a second, so we're on to the,
Sorry, I meant to,
oh, I'm sorry. No,
I meant
it
to
was,
motion
there was a
to-
substitute motion, sorry. There was a substitute motion that was made to settle this at 20% of the total fine. Okay. All right. Commissioner Barnett, you're recognized.
Thank you. This is for council. Is there any indication that the property owner was at any kind of negotiating disadvantage, or not properly or competently represented by council, or that the property owner wasn't fully satisfied with this negotiated settlement?
I'll defer to staff because they had direct communications with the representation. From my understanding, there was somebody who was, I'm not sure if they were attorney or not, but they had power of attorney over the property owner, and the property owner died, and then the representation changed because it went into an estate, but.
Right, so we've had negotiations with the executor of the state, who is the daughter of the property owner that passed away, and she has been happy with the settlement and the agreement. So
Why
I
are
don't
we
think-
second guessing their intentions? I think this is a total waste of time. I'd like to go ahead and approve G1 as is. No, we have a second?
What we've had, so let's see, we've had one substitute motion. We can do two. Would you like to make another substitute motion?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, so we have a substitute motion by Commissioner Barnett that would leave this item as is. Is there a second? Oh, we have a second by Commissioner Woodward. Okay. Is there any, Commissioner Baxter, you're recognized.
So for clarification, the substitute motion is for the full amount,
That's correct.
and the other one is for the 20% of it. Was for the 20%. So now we're voting on the full amount.
Okay. Commissioner Marino.
It is up to the board. We do have discretion. We've had a lot of discussions about this, not just this one, but other settlements in the past. And the percentage that we settle for always is, it wavers. It's never, we all settle for 5%, we settle for 10, we always settle for 40. Because we don't want to send a signal to everybody that, we're going to just accrue the fines and then we're going to settle for 5 or 10%. We don't want to do that. In this instance, you have somebody that, and normally when we are in this discussion right now, when we are settling, when it has come back to us, it is because the property owner has come into compliance and they're selling their property. So they want to get rid of it as soon as possible. They want to settle the deal as soon as possible so they can move on. And in this instance, I think they settled for the 40% because of that particular reason. They just wanted to move on and get done with it. Is it up to us? Do we have the discretion to lower it? Because we feel that even at $17,000, it might be too much. When I pulled this last month, I thought the $17,000 was too much. So where I realized that they have negotiated in good faith at the 40%, I still think that the 40% in this particular instance is too high, and we do have that discretion to lower it. I know that several other members of the board feel that the agreed upon amount is fine. I didn't like it last month. And I will maintain that I still don't think that the 40% is the right amount for this. So I will again say I am in favor of the 20, so I would not be supporting the 40%.
All right, thank you. All right, is there any other comments or questions? All right, not seeing any, so we are on the substitute motion. This would be to leave this item as presented. Let's go ahead and we'll take a roll call vote on this.
Commissioner Marino,
No.
Commissioner Woodward,
Yes.
Commissioner Barnett,
Yes.
Commissioner Baxter,
No.
Commissioner Bernard, Vice Mayor Sachs. Yes. Mayor Weiss.
Yes.
4 aye, 2 nay.
Thank you. All right, moving on to our next item. That is going to be item L2B on page 21. Commissioner Baxter, you recognize you pulled this item?
There, this one and two others were kind of for a similar reason. So, you know, we all had to, well, we ran to represent our constituents. And I think one of the top priorities of the board is to keep track of dollars and the budget for the county. And so and to keep things actually in sunshine. Let's keep it out in the public. Let's let everyone see and hear what's going on. And so there's those three, but we're on this one now, the 3LB. It turns over the authority to the administrator, and where I appreciate her expertise on things, I think that things should be done more publicly. And I think we should have oversight to dollars being spent, and different ones for different reasons. This one more so just to have it out there so that people can hear and see what's going on.
Would somebody like to, from staff, respond?
Changes are.
So this particular item, I don't know if you're talking about this particular item or if you're talking
Well,
more
that's the item
generally.
we're on.
Okay,
So we're on 3L2? if
right,
I
so
wrote that
the,
down.
you particularly pulled 3L2B. And so B authorizes the county administrator or designee to sign all future time extensions, task assignments, certifications, and other forms associated with the agreement, and any necessary minor amendments that do not substantially change the scope of work, terms, or conditions of the agreement. And so as a department director, I use this very sparingly in conditions under cases, and it really is, this is there to try to promote government efficiency. So we don't have to take a 30-day time extension where the contractor is trying to compile all of the closeout documents as one example, and that we could make sure that we're within the terms of that agreement by giving the time extension. Or sometimes there's small little amounts where they're reconciling the amounts of the contract, where you're reconciling the amount and you can authorize that, but nothing substantial or anything that would have to come in front of the purview of the board is typically would not be authorized under what is described under B. Additionally, when we make those changes, we bring back receive-in files to the board. So everything is transparent, and you do have that full accountability on all budget items. All of those come back to the board. That's my explanation for why this is here and probably in other contracts that were pulled.
Where I appreciate government efficiency or trying to head in that direction, this is very broad. It doesn't give specific dollar amounts. It doesn't define minor. And again, I still would like to have a decision in that prior to it just going to receive and file, which just lets us know after the fact.
Can you share what the dollar amount is involved in this? Although I don't,
$8 grand a year.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, $58,400 a year for 4 years.
And that's the max amount?
Yes, ma'am, and that would be on the agenda item, under the fiscal impact analysis section for each agenda item. You would have those amounts specified, as well as the fund, department, unit, and object code that are associated with the funding for the item.
Yeah, so it's not in our summary, and it is not in, so maybe it is under the fiscal analysis, but I think that would be a very important piece of information to include ahead of time. But I still am in favor of letting the public know what's going on. If it is something minor, less, I would even argue to some people $58,000 isn't minor, but with our budget and for the process of being efficient, I can see why this would be advantageous. I just don't know that I'm fully on board with it.
So to be clear, I'm sorry.
go.
To be clear, on the authorization of the delegation of authority for those specific items, it really is, I don't know if council wants to speak to how we define those items or what in the review process for the AIS, when we get the legal review, what would constitute it bumping up beyond that authority. But these are, time extensions, task assignments, certification, and other forms with the agreement, any necessary minor amendments that do not substantially change the scope or conditions of the agreement. I don't believe that the cost is something that we're authorized to change, at least upwards.
Sure, so, I mean, normally if we were to amend the contract between, normally if we were to amend the contract between the parties to substantially, and change the scope of work or increase the cost, that would be something that would be brought back to the board. As Ms. Drum mentioned, so normally this authorization allows the county administrator or designee to do such things as time extensions or very minor amendments that aren't substantially changing the scope of work, so that it saves time and it's brought back to the board as a receive and file item. So that would not allow for substantial changes to the cost. And I believe in this case, this is a cooperative agreement with the South Florida Water Management District, where both parties are incurring their own costs to do this water quality monitoring that maybe Deb could speak to more. So it's just a cooperative agreement where both governmental entities are sharing in the costs of performing this water quality sampling.
So with your approval of 3L2A, that allows the cooperative agreement with the Water Management District for the water quality data collection to move forward. The B part is for delegation of authority for, as this agreement goes forward, if there's a hurricane and the Water Management District or we cannot perform some of our duties associated with this contract as delineated in this agreement, then it will allow to acknowledge that change in timelines or something like that. So that's an example of what we mean by when we say does not substantially change the scope of work, terms, or conditions of the agreement.
Thank you. Commissioner Marino, you're recognized.
Thank you. So there's two steps to this right now. We're agreeing to the $58,000 a year contract, which is in the fiscal impact sheet.
We've already done it.
Yes.
Okay. Actually, we've already done because that was on consent. So this is separate from that. This is, are there dollar amounts, and I think what Commissioner Baxter is trying to get at is, when we sign off and we give the county administrator, or in my instance, sometimes we did it to the city manager too, and the cities do this all the time. There is a minimal amount of a dollar amount that goes along with a change. So in this instance, right now, what we're saying is that we're giving the county administrator the ability to, if they need additional time, without coming back to the board and delaying it, she can do it without the board saying yes. If they need certifications, without coming back to the board and having a time delay, the county administrator can sign off on that. But if there is a fiscal impact, a major fiscal impact, that comes to us. That is not what we're doing here.
That is correct.
Okay. So I'm comfortable with this. I know we've done this in the past before because these are insignificant changes. But any point in time, as verified today, this is on consent. We can always pull it and discuss. But for right now, I'm comfortable with L2B. There is no fiscal impact with this, so I would make a motion to approve.
We have a motion by Commissioner Marino. We have a second by the Vice Mayor. Is there any further discussion on this item? Seeing none, all in favor? All opposed? That motion carries 6-0. All right, moving on. Let's see, we are now to, go back. We are now to item 3QB, that's on pages 23 and 24. This is in regards to Criminal Justice Commission.
It's the same thing.
It's the same, it's the same thing. Authorize the county administrator or designee to execute the grant award amendments, documents, and electronic grant reporting forms related to this grant on behalf of the Board of County Commissioner after approval of legal sufficiency by the county attorney's office within budget allocations. Is there any discussion on this item? We have a motion by Commissioner Barnett to approve.
I'll second.
We have a second by Commissioner Baxter. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, all opposed, this motion carries 6-0.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to item 3U2B on page 25.
So this is one where I was more, which brought my attention to the other two, because it gives up to $50,000 per task order of discretion, and that is a lot of money that doesn't come before this board. So this one, so I know that we're supposed to be bringing in money from an out-of-county agency into using our software of sorts, is what I understood from this. But we are also allowing up to $50,000 at a time to be approved outside of this board. And so that just doesn't sit well with me at all. And so I would like to see how my fellow commissioners feel about doing that. I was also worried about security, which I guess feel more comfortable with now. I asked these questions yesterday with allowing another entity to access our technical software information, however you'd like to put that.
All right. Would you all like to address this and explain what item B is?
Good morning, Archie Satchel, Director, Information System Services. So item B is asking for expediency and to ensure that another government entity is not awaiting services. So this is a revenue contract whereby we could do services to bring revenue in to get them going as soon as possible. The delegated authority is just to ensure we can do the task order, and then we bring it back to the board as a receiving file for the revenue.
So let me just ask, so this is not in spending money, this is in bringing in money.
Exactly.
This is a revenue stream.
Revenue stream.
So that you would not have to come back to the board to ask to accept additional revenue from St. Johns County's clerk.
No, we would not.
Okay. You're recognized, Commissioner Baxter.
So just for clarification, so this doesn't authorize spending at all? Zero?
This is revenue coming in. That revenue offset whatever work that we do for the contract.
So
It's a
then,
task
could
order
you
that comes in.
elaborate on a task order
So,
then?
so St. John's County may ask for a change to the application, or additional statute may require modifications, so they're going to ask us to do that modification that is pertinent to them. So we have to do that work to ensure that the software works for them. They
And so
pay
they
us to do that. So
under that
we charge them an hourly rate to do that work. And so that hourly rate is what we use to recover the time that we do that work.
So I've been here a little over 6 months, and every task order that's come before us has always been for dollars going out. And you're saying this one's different?
For us, it's different. Dollars coming in.
Okay,
Even
thank you.
agreements with the municipalities, this dollar's coming in.
Any further discussion on this? Would somebody like to make a motion? Commissioner Marino, you're recognized.
Thank you. Commissioner Baxter asked also about security. Can you give us a little bit more information about
So
security?
these applications that we host for external entities are hosted in a separate instance. It's not the same instance that we use for in this case, for the Inspector General. It's a separate instance. So we isolate those applications, and we apply all our cybersecurity tools, processes, procedures to any application that we host or that we provide. So
Thank you.
it's covered.
All right. Commissioner. Okay, well, it's like one on each ear. Go ahead, Commissioner Marino. So we have a motion from Commissioner Marino to approve item 3U2B, and we have a second by the Vice Mayor. Is there any further discussion on this item? All in favor? All opposed? That motion carries 6-0. Okay, I think this ends everything we have for our consent agenda. And we are now into special presentations. All right. Oh, I start off. All right. Can I have our FDOT District Commissioner, Jerry O'Reilly, and whoever else you'd like to have join me?
By myself.
Okay, well, you normally do. All right, this is quite a day, and but it's really my honor and privilege to be able to declare that June 6th in Palm Beach County is hereby going to be known as, or in 2023, as Jerry O'Reilly Day, right here. Whereas professional engineer Jerry O'Reilly began his career in Florida with the Department of Transportation on June 26, 1988. And on March 2nd of 2015, he was named as our District 4 Secretary. As FDOT section leader and project manager early in his career, he was involved with many projects, including widening Glades Road to west to the Turnpike, widening Military Trail to add bicycle lanes, and widening Okeechobee Boulevard from 4 to 8 lanes from the Florida Turnpike to I-95. Others include I-95 interchange and auxiliary lane projects, State Route 15 improvements, and countless other projects in Palm Beach County and our Glades region. Whereas District Design Engineer Mr. O'Reilly was involved with the Royal Park Bridge replacement and Southern Boulevard widening and grade separation. And whereas District has expended over $2.5 billion towards transportation improvements within the county during Mr. O'Reilly's tenure as Secretary. And whereas transportation improvement projects include the Flagler Memorial Bridge replacement, extension of the I-95 express lanes into the county, the district's first diverging diamond interchange at Glades Road, interchange operational and safety improvements, bicycle and pedestrian improvement projects, sidewalks projects, and in Belle Glade, and complete streets projects all across our county with the emphasis on safety for everyone. Whereas Mr. O'Reilly has successfully partnered with the county, Palm Beach Transportation Agency, PalmTran Public Transportation, and South Florida Regional Transportation Authority. Whereas he served as a board member of SFRTA and a strong advocate for transit and multimodal transportation, and whereas Mr. O'Reilly has been a remarkable leader and has had a lasting impact on Palm Beach County. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners in Palm Beach County, Florida, and assembled in regular session on this 6th day of June 2023, that June 6, 2023 in Palm Beach County is hereby proclaimed as Jerry O'Reilly Day in Palm Beach County. Thank you, Mr. O'Reilly, for your service.
I appreciate it, Mayor, Commissioners, Vice Mayor. I'm Virginia, my friend. Thank you very much for this recognition. I've really enjoyed my career in the DOT, 35 years. I came from Ireland. I thought I'd stay 3 or 4 years, but I loved it, and I'm still here. Thank you for everything you do for the citizens of Florida. Safety on the roads is preeminent, I know. Vice Mayor, many of you, I've met with you specifically about safety, and we've improved many things. We've done some great projects. I look forward to seeing what happens in the future. There's many great things to do, but again, thank you all very much for this recognition.
Mr. O'Reilly, Jerry, thanks for answering my calls no matter what time of day or night it was. On behalf of our staff here at Palm Beach County, I want to thank you for all your partnerships throughout the year. And I know our partners to the south of us, because we worked as a tri-county, also thank you for your many, many years of service, and especially these last 8 years that we spent together so closely. Thank you.
Just real quick. On behalf of the Board of County Commissioners, our county administrator and staff, we want to present Mr. O'Reilly just a little token of appreciation of his great years of service. Val, you want to say anything?
Thank you. I also, on behalf of the Palm Beach Transportation Planning Agency, want to thank Jerry for all of your collaboration, everything you've done for our county, for our district. We are sad to see you go. We will miss you, but wish you all the best and look forward to our continued collaboration with district and staff. Thank you so much.
You get in the middle.
While they're taking photos, we're going to do the code enforcement proclamation. So I've got a long, long list of names here. Do I need to read them all, or if you're here for this proclamation, please come on up, because it fills the page. But just because I want your names to be heard: Whitney Carroll, Michelle Pagan, Rick Torrance, Dawn Sobek, Senior Code Enforcement Officers Elizabeth Gonzalez, Larry Caracchio, Dwayne Johnson, Richard Paget, Michelle Malkin Daniels. Code Enforcement Officers Frank Davis, Jose Feliciano. You know, there's a lot of jokes in that one. Caroline Falk, John Giannotti, Dennis Hamburger, Jamie Illicet. I apologize if I said that wrong. I got it right? Yay. Adam Moulton, Debbie Plowd, Ron Ramos, and David Snell. Did I miss anybody? Got it all? Okay, thank you. And I just want to say thank you. I mean, you all, we're 2,400 square miles, and that's a lot of land to negotiate with any department that we have. And I do know that you all go above and beyond and do the best that you possibly can with what you have given to you. So on that note, this is a proclamation declaring June 6th through 10th, 2023 as Code Enforcement Officers Appreciation Week. Whereas code enforcement officers provide for the safety, health, and welfare of Palm Beach County residents through the enforcement of housing, property management, zoning, building, public rights of way, environmental, and other codes and ordinances. And whereas code enforcement officers are often not credited for the job that they do in improving neighborhoods and overall quality of life, and whereas every day officers provide quality customer service to the public for the betterment of the community, and whereas code enforcement officers are dedicated, well-trained, and highly responsible individuals who take their job seriously and are proud of their department and the local government within which they serve, and whereas the Florida Association of Code Enforcement has declared the first week of June to be set aside by local government to honor and recognize their code enforcement officers, and whereas residents of Palm Beach County are encouraged to join the Board of County Commissioners in expressing appreciation for the dedication and outstanding service provided by the individuals who serve as our code enforcement officers. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Palm Beach County, Florida, assembled in regular session this 6th day of June 2023, that June 6th through 10th, 2023 in Palm Beach County is hereby proclaimed Code Enforcement Officers Appreciation Week. Thank you. Whitney, you want to say a couple words?
Just on behalf of the Planning, Zoning, and Building Department, our Code Enforcement Division, I am so proud of our team, and we really appreciate the recognition. Sometimes the appreciation our team doesn't necessarily feel because they're out there daily working very hard on behalf of Palm Beach County to enforce our codes and ordinances, and they do an amazing job. And I just feel that sometimes they don't feel appreciated, so today I think they feel appreciated, and we really, really appreciate that. And I'd like to have Michelle Pagan, our Code Enforcement Director, say a few things.
Thank you, everyone, for acknowledging the hard work that our team does. I'm so pleased in the past year and a half that I've been here to be part of this team and to witness firsthand exactly what they do. They go out there, they're empathetic, they engage with the community, and as you know, we are just a mirror reflection of the community that we serve. So we are thankful again for this acknowledgement. We appreciate it. Shannon Fox, and I thank you for all the staff that assists us every day. This truly, truly is a team effort that we do every day. So thank you very much.
And if I may, Mayor, add Michelle Pagan and all your officers. I've seen you on the field, I've seen you in action, and we have a lot to be proud of with that group. Thank you for giving that award.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. All right, is John Harris here? All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and present this proclamation. We'll get it to Mr. Harris. We are declaring the first Friday in June as National Gun Violence Awareness Day. Whereas Gun Violence Awareness Day honors and remembers all victims and survivors of gun violence and declares that we must do more to end this public health crisis. And whereas every day more than 120 Americans are killed by gun violence and more than 200 are shot and wounded, with an average of more than 17,000 gun homicides every year. Americans are 26 times more likely to die by gun homicide than people in other high-income countries, and Florida has the 30th highest rate of gun deaths in the country. Whereas Florida has a rate of 13.3 deaths per 100,000 people, a crisis that costs the state over $40 billion each year, of which $875 million is paid by the taxpayers. Whereas support for the Second Amendment rights of law-abiding citizens goes hand in hand with keeping guns away from people with dangerous histories. And whereas gun violence prevention is more important than ever as we see an increase in firearm homicides and non-fatal shootings across the country, calls to domestic violence hotlines and city gun violence. And whereas on January 2013, Hadia Pendleton was tragically shot and killed at age 15, and on June 2nd, 2023, to recognize her 26th birthday, people across the United States will recognize National Gun Violence Awareness Day by wearing orange in tribute to Hadia Pendleton and the other victims of gun violence and the loved ones of those victims. And whereas the idea was inspired by a group of Hadia's friends who asked their classmates to commemorate her life by wearing orange, the color hunters wear to announce themselves to other hunters when out in the woods. And orange has come to symbolize a color that symbolizes the value of human life. And whereas we renew our commitment to reduce gun violence and pledge to do all we can to keep firearms out of the hands of people who should not have access to them, and to encourage responsible gun ownership to help keep our families and communities safe. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Palm Beach County, assembled in regular session on this 13th day of June 2023, that June 2023 in Palm Beach County is hereby proclaimed National Gun Violence Prevention Day. You know, I have to say, this was something, gun violence was something my mother spent her career working on as a national health emergency. It's unfortunate. Her life's work I believe, has helped to reduce gun violence. But on the other hand, we continue to see needless violence utilizing firearms in this country day after day and year after year. And it's something, as it said, you know, we understand the Second Amendment rights that people have, but we also have a responsibility to make sure our people are safe. And so it's my honor to be able to present this proclamation, and we'll get it to Mr. Harris when he's available. So thank you for allowing me to make this presentation on behalf of our board.
May I please have Mr. Michael Jessup, President and CEO of the Alzheimer's Community Care Foundation, and Kevin Wren, Chief of Staff. And on a personal note, I know you all received a check from Impact the Palm Beaches. Thank you for that. You were one of 4 agencies that got a check of over $75,000, and we appreciate you doing what you do for our community. And on that note, this is a proclamation of the Board of County Commissioners declaring June 21st, 2023 as Alzheimer's Community Care Day. Whereas in the United States, there are over 6 million reported cases of Alzheimer's disease, And whereas in Florida, approximately 580,000 people aged 65 and older are living with Alzheimer's disease. And whereas in Florida, cases are estimated to increase 24% to 720,000 by 2025, with 70% of the care provided by family caregivers in the community. And whereas in Palm Beach County, the age group 65 and older, which exceeds 24% of the population, is at the greatest risk for Alzheimer's disease, and approximately 54,688 currently have probable Alzheimer's disease. And whereas it is critical that Alzheimer's families within our local community coping with the disease are safe, with well-being, dignity, and quality of life preserved through services and resources accessible to all. And whereas June is recognized as Alzheimer's and Brain Awareness Month, highlighting awareness on June 21st, the longest day, the summer solstice, to symbolize the light and hope in the fight against the darkness of Alzheimer's. And whereas we extend gratitude to those advocates and supporters, including, but not limited to, Alzheimer's Community Care and its Board of Directors, now therefore be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Palm Beach County, Florida, and assembled in regular session this 6th day of June 2023, that June 21st, 2023 in Palm Beach County is hereby proclaimed Alzheimer's Community Care Day.
Thank you, Mayor Weiss, Commissioner Marino, and other esteemed Board of County Commissioners for declaring June 21st, 2023, the longest day, Alzheimer's Community Care Day, and valuing the work and the mission that we do in the community. When we mention the longest day, for those of us who care for or look after, and I include my colleagues at Alzheimer's Community Care, my family and friends, those of you in the audience here today who care for those that have dementia, Alzheimer's, neurocognitive disorders. It truly is a long day. It's a long day, 365 days of a year, year after year after year. But we do it, myself and those here and my colleagues, we do it because of the love and compassion we have for our family members, our friends, and our community members. About 55,000 people here in Palm Beach County are affected by dementia, Alzheimer's, neurocognitive disorders, and that number is just going to continue to grow. We try to provide as many resources and services as we can for these families and for these patients. We try to make them as accessible and to make their lives better on a daily basis. One of the things since I started 5 months ago, is that I pledged to expand our services, because there are more people and families in this community, patients especially, that need our services and our care. And we will continue to expand and address those needs as we move forward. You know, we are a great community here, and we show a lot of compassion. I work with the most compassionate colleagues you could ever ask to work for. And we really value and appreciate that you recognize the work that we do by making this proclamation. We will not forget those that are affected by dementia, Alzheimer's, and neurocognitive diseases. We will continue to help to make the families continue to get the resources they need to make their lives better, to make their patients' lives better, and to truly make a difference on a daily basis in those that need us. So thank you very much.
Mr. Bergeron, you can join me. Bittersweet, as they say. So we are here to recognize Joe Bergeron for his 40 years of service to the county, to the day. So.
It's an easy day to remember. What's D-Day?
Yeah. whereas Joe Bergeron joined the Palm Beach County Internal Auditor's Office on June 6, 1983, as a senior analyst in financial systems, and whereas in June of 1985, he joined financial management, a new function prior to the creation of the Office of Financial Management and Budget, and whereas in 1986, Joe Bergeron joined the Engineering and Public Works Department as Physical Director, and whereas on October 1992, he became the Capital Budget Manager in the Budget Office, and in 1998, he was selected to be the Assistant Budget Director in the same office, and whereas in August 2004, Joe Bergeron became the County Internal Auditor. Whereas during his 19-year tenure as County Internal Auditor, the audit team has issued 317 audit reports containing approximately 1,000 suggestions and recommendations for improvement in business processes and internal controls. And whereas his 40-year career with the county, Joe Bergeron has always been admired and respected for his long-standing dedication and impeccable professionalism. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Palm Beach County, assembled in regular session on this 6th day of June, 2023, that the board hereby recognizes Joe Bergeron for his 40 years of service to Palm Beach County. Congratulations, Joe. Thank you for everything you've done.
Listening to that list of jobs I've had might make you think, I can't hold a job. But I found a place that I love, people that I love working with. I appreciate the support of the board over all the years. I really appreciate my staff, their support. I might provide direction, but they're the ones who do the work. And I have to say that in my 40 years, I have really come to learn that Palm Beach County is an outstanding organization, great leadership, and very dedicated personnel, and I'm happy to have been a part of it for so long.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you. Thank you on behalf of all the residents and businesses of Palm Beach County, because you have made this a better place for us all.
Joe, on behalf of the staff here in Palm Beach County, we thank you for your 35 years of service. You and I grew up in this organization together. You were here before me, just for the record. But working in the budget office and you as my boss was definitely a good turn. In addition to the fact that you became our internal auditor, was exceptional. And so we have made great strides in Palm Beach County. And our staff appreciates your leadership and all of the audit results we've come up with to make us a more efficient county. I know that you're leaving us, but we're not going to let you leave without inundating you with Palm Beach County memorabilia. And we want to make sure that you drink your water and you think of us, and that you drink anything else and you think of us. And you also play with your dog and think of us. Thank you very much.
You want to bring them up here?
We can go. Right here in the middle. That's right. You should know that as an accountant. No rabbit ears in the back. No rabbit ears. Yes, you would.
Good morning. On this June 6th, D-Day, I chose to wear this Go Army lanyard in honor of my grandfather, who marched with the 9th Army through France to liberate the peoples of Europe from fascism and oppression. And 79 years prior, the United States Army marched into Galveston, Texas to inform thousands of people, Americans, that they were free and had been free for 2 years. And today I have the extreme high honor of presenting the proclamation recognizing and declaring June 19th, 2023 as Juneteenth Day. I'd like to invite Dr. James Green, Taruna Malhorta, Clinton Forbes, Dorrit Miller, Barbara Sheaves, Debbie Rang, Dr. Alicia Wynn, and County Administrator Virginia Baker, would you?
And Tammy Fields.
And also Tammy Fields. Thank you. Proclamation of the Board of County Commissioners of Palm Beach County, Florida, declaring June 19th, 2023 as Juneteenth Day. Whereas President Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation on January 1st, 1863, declaring enslaved people shall be free, and the 13th Amendment was passed by Congress on January 31st, 1865. And whereas Juneteenth is a commemoration celebrating the emancipation of those who were kept in bondage in Texas 2.5 years after the Emancipation Proclamation. And whereas June 19th, 1865, Union General Gordon Granger led troops into Galveston, Texas to announce the end of the Civil War and the institution of slavery. Thousands of enslaved people in Texas were among the last to learn of their liberation. And whereas the commemorations that began in Texas spread around the nation, with other communities joining and celebrating this milestone in the journey to freedom for all. And whereas the Palm Beach County Community Services Department is proud to celebrate Juneteenth and will host a cultural tour on June 12th, 2023, highlighting the history of African Americans in Palm Beach County and their sacrifices and contributions to our community. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Palm Beach County, Florida, assembled in regular session this 6th day of June, 2023, that June 19th, 2023 in Palm Beach County is hereby proclaimed Juneteenth Day.
Thank you, Commissioner. I stand here wearing two hats today very proudly, one being the person who leads that Black History Tour for Dr. Green. We've been leading that for 2 years now, and as the co-vice chair of the PBC Remembrance Coalition. And we have a coalition here that we've been together for 2 years because of the Equal Justice Initiative in Montgomery, Alabama. There is representation of people who were lynched throughout this country. Palm Beach County has a pillar in that initiative with 2 names on it, the names of Samuel Nelson from Delray Beach and Henry Simmons from West Palm Beach. We as a coalition with Mayor Weiss traveled to Montgomery this year to deliver the soil from the spot where Samuel Nelson was lynched in Delray Beach. This past Saturday, we gathered to collect soil for Henry Simmons. And I have to say that today, June 6, in 1923, 100 years ago today, Henry Simmons was taken from his rooming house in West Palm Beach and taken to the island of Palm Beach and lynched. So I stand here today solemnly and proudly to accept this proclamation. We thank you.
While they're taking this picture, I'm going to move forward with calling up at this moment the mother of mental health in Palm Beach County, and that is Rita Thrasher. So Rita, why don't you come on up here first, and I will move forward on declaring this day, June 6th, as the American Association of Caregiving Youth Day. And I'm going to name a couple of other names, and many of them are not here, but I want their names read in the record. I know, however, that Dr. Connie Sikowski, founder and president of the American Association of Caregiving Youth, is here. If you could come forward, please. And of course, Deborah Lynn Bellatieri, who's the board chair. If you're here, if you could come forward. Jeffrey Gordon, Esquire. I'm going to read the next number of names out for the record. Isabel Parado, Frank Barbieri, Keith Oswald, Rita Solnit, Maria Levex, Mandy Alvarado Riviera, Karen Harwood, Seth Bernstein, Elaine Rotenberg, Pamela Fraser, Gerda Klein, Sharon Tarlow, James Green, Tammy Fields, Katie and Bernard, Seth Bernstein, Pilar Brugman, Julie Chapman, Kristen Cruz, Ricane Etienne, Pamela Fraser, Marisol Goffman, Adriana Holloman, LaWanda Lawson, Destiny Marshall, Cassandra Mendez, Katia Reisler. Thank you for being here, and thank you for all that you do for the members of our community. So today, we are declaring June 6, 2023, as American Association of Caregiving Youth Day. This was founded in 2006 by Dr. Connie Sikowski, a nurse and humanitarian problem solver who was a caregiver in her youth. She has extensive experience in healthcare with skills ranging from teaching paramedics to long-term and hospice care, and I'm sure you have a lot of compassion. Whereas this youth project started at the Boca Raton Community Middle School in partnership with the School District of Palm Beach County and provided services for students who were sacrificing their education, health, well-being, and childhood to assist family members who were chronically ill, elderly, or disabled. These programs expanded to 35 middle and high schools and serves caregiving youth in 22 other schools. Whereas in 2010, the American Association of Caregiving Youth became the nonprofit name, and in 2014, the Caregiving Youth Institute was created. This led to conferences and many, many collaborative participations from universities in the United States and Canada. Whereas helping to reduce the stress on caregiving youth includes a variety of services that impact educational performance, mental health, and social needs, as well as providing practical challenges, such as building ramps at homes with wheelchair-bound individuals, repairing leaks in ceilings, and finding donors to provide clean water for families. Whereas this association has served thousands of caregiving youth and their families in our county, averaging 98% of participants graduating from high school and more than 90% pursuing post-secondary education or military service. And whereas this association, here we set an example right here of taking care of each other, right? Association has demonstrated that academic and personal success outcomes are achieved when caregiving youth are recognized and supported in and out of school and at home through this association. Therefore, be it declared today by the Board of County Commissioners of Palm Beach County, Florida, assembled in regular session the 6th day of June 2023, that this date in Palm Beach County is hereby proclaimed the American Association of Caregiving Youth Day. Congratulations to all of you.
Thank you, and I have a few prepared remarks. I wanted to thank Mayor Weiss and Vice Mayor Sachs, Rita Thrasher, Palm Beach County Action Alliance, and all who are here who participated in today's naming of the day. AACY began 25 years ago as a grassroots faith and action nonprofit to serve homebound people and caregiving families with volunteer services. The homebound population was invisible to most, as they, like the caregiving youth we serve today, are out of sight and out of mind. My middle school experience of caring for my grandfather included personal care and giving him medications. It was his 2 a.m. medication time that I felt his cool skin and realized he was no longer breathing. Some guilt continues. I know better, but the what-ifs I woke up earlier still creep into my mind. That was in 1960, when trauma in children was not recognized. As an adult, my personal life was tough. When in counseling, I was made aware of perhaps needless ramifications of my young life. A prevention seed was planted. How could I reduce the suffering of those who today were wearing the shoes of my childhood? Now our awesome AACY team works with the school district of Palm Beach County and our community partners between systems of healthcare, education in the community, body, mind, and spirit, and changes the lives of children and their families. Support services at no cost to families in and out of school and at home throughout the calendar year from 6th grade to graduation promotes their well-being. Our work, only made possible by the generosity of many, including you, our county, impacts their tomorrows as they become educated, healthy, and productive adults. They no longer feel alone and their families feel cared about. This produces a wonderful ripple effect for all of us, our county and beyond. Our groundbreaking work and Caregiving Youth Institute has brought state, national, and global recognition to Palm Beach County. Our newest affiliates are in Colorado and Hawaii. There is so much more to do. In our country, there are millions of child caregivers with no recognition or support. This is through no fault of their own. On their behalf, I would be remiss if I didn't ask you to join with AACY in our quest for expansion along with Florida landmark legislation so our youth are supported and we maintain our leadership role in America with the Florida Caregiving Youth Act. In closing, to you, our county commissioners, Rita, the Alliance, the AACY board and team, along with all who are here today, thank you.
Yes, we'll all hold on to each other. Thank you so much.
And while they are taking their photo, may I please have Palm Tran operator Marcia Solomon, Laddie Goldwire, Clint Forbes, Todd Von Laren, Dwight Mattingly, and Joey Acevedo to the podium. Thank you. How are you today? I'm well, thank you. It's always wonderful when we have the ability to recognize someone that has gone above and beyond what their job entails. And we're doing that today with Marcia Solomon, who's been a bus operator at Palm Tran for 27 years. She showed concern for the son of Laddie Goldwire, who suffers from mental health disorders and sometimes goes missing for weeks at a time. Operator Solomon is committed to outstanding customer service and sees Ms. Goldwire's son on her bus route and always tries to assist him with the changing of the bus, water, food, and contacts his mother when need be. So Ms. Goldwire is eternally grateful to Operator Solomon for her tremendous heart And so today, we're going to do a certificate of recognition presented to Marcia Solomon for going above and beyond her duties as a Palm Tran operator to assist Donnell Elam and Ms. Lady Goldwire in their time of need, presented on the 6th day of June, 2023, Palm Beach County Board of Commissioners. Thank you so much.
I am. Thank you, and good morning, Mayor, Commissioners, and Palm Tran. Thank you for inviting me here today. I've been a Palm Tran bus driver for 27 years, so it's safe to say that I know all of my regular riders. One day, I came across a shared post, Facebook post of Miss Goldwire, and she was looking for her son. I quickly realized that Miss Goldwire's son was one of my regular riders. He rides my bus almost every day, and he's very respectful. Being a mom of 2 sons, I know what it's like to worry about them. So I kept the news about Mrs. Goldwire's son in the back of my mind. When he came to ride my bus the next time, I just did what I thought was right. I wanted to make sure to let Ms. Goldwire know that he was okay when I seen him. I hope to spread the message that we can all make the world a better and brighter place if we would just look out for one another. I just did what I hope someone would do for me and my family if we ever found ourselves in this circumstance. I didn't expect to be recognized by the Board of County Commissioners today, but I'm grateful, and I represent my coworkers and Palm Tran in a positive light. I know that there are other operators and employees out there doing the same and making a difference. Thank you again, and I really appreciate it.
Hello, and keep it together. I just want to say this. If Ms. Marcia Solomon is a representative of the talent and the character of our community, if she's the template for kindness, if she's the template for stopping and doing what she doesn't have to do, I think Palm Beach County is in a really, really good space. I have been working alongside so many great organizations over the years in an effort to champion mental health awareness. And there are days and nights and weeks that go by where I don't know where my son is. And in some of his lowest moments, his interactions are usually very limited. He's very selective about who he's going to interact with. And I quickly learned that he looked forward to seeing Miss Marcia on his rounds. Today he's in a hospital, but he called me this morning, and I told him that I was going to see you and that you were going to get an award. And he told me to tell you thank you for the water. So, thank you for the water. Thank you for being kind. Thank you for not treating him like his illness.
Never. Don't make me cry.
You know, Florida is 49th in the country with regard to how we handle mental health. And Palm Beach County, we live in paradise. And I think when you recognize that there's always something for us to fight about, political affiliations, race relations, religion, mental health is the one thing that we can all do together. And I'm just hopeful that today is a great space for us to start. Thank you for choosing such amazing employees. Thank you, Ms. Marcia.
Anytime.
today's a good day, isn't it? Isn't it? We gotta remember this day. I'd like to call up over here, and I know you're sitting over there, is Andy Reese, United States Army retired, and James Green, Director of Community Services, and Ron Holtgren, United States Army retired, and Michelle McKay, United States Marine Corps. If you could come on right on up here. Today's a rather significant day, being June 6th. Something rather big happened in Europe today. But we are going to recognize you, especially you, Andy Reese, for the work you do for the poor veterans. So we're going to declare June 2023 as Palm Beach County Veteran Services Officers Appreciation Month. Whereas the Palm Beach County Veteran Services Division have an outstanding team of officers comprised of dedicated individuals like U.S. Army retired Andy Reese, U.S. Army retired Ron C. Holtgren, U.S. Marine Corps retired Michelle McKay, and U.S. Marine Corps retired Jason St. John, who serve the county's veterans with respect, equity, compassion, integrity, professionalism, and empowerment. And whereas Palm Beach County has the third largest population of veterans in the state of Florida, with a total of about 84,000, including more than 67,000 wartime veterans and 17,000 peacetime veterans. And whereas this division serves 2,371 veterans, families, widows, and their children in 2022, ensuring they receive financial, medical, educational, and other benefits. And whereas these veteran service officers assist to secure millions of dollars each year in federal benefits for veterans, widows of veterans, and children of veterans that they are so rightfully entitled to. Whereas the financial benefits to our veterans and their families totaled $24 million in compensation and pensions. Whereas the dedication of these officers demonstrate the sentiment that President Abraham Lincoln expressed in his second inaugural address in March 1865, quote, "To care for him who shall have borne the battle, and for his widow and his orphan. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Palm Beach County, Florida, assembled in regular session the 6th day of June 2023, that this entire month of June, not just one day, of 2023, and hereby in Palm Beach County is proclaimed as our County Veteran Services Officers Appreciation Month. Thank you so much, especially Andy Reese, for all you do.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Sachs, Commissioners of the Board, County Administrator. Pleasure to see you all again. You know, we only have 4 of us, but there's 18,000 per veteran service officer. So, you know, job security's there. But you know, thank you all to recognizing this, and we truly appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. I just want to say, and before I leave my office, I want to be sure that whatever monies that we have flow through you, Mr. Green, that we make sure that we take care of our veterans, their families, their orphans, so that no man is ever left behind, ever. They fought for us, for our freedoms, and we are here today because of their sacrifice, some of them even their lives. And we will never forget that they have earned so much for us. Whatever we can do for you, we will do. We are committed to that. Thank you very much. Thank you.
I'll take pictures at the same time. I usually take mine off when I take a picture. All right. Thank you. Thank you very much, Vice Mayor. We have some special guests with us today. And I am pleased that we have a group of students with their chaperones from the Emmanuel Jackson Senior Project. They're here as part of their 2023 Young Legislative Program, where they introduce the youth to the inner workings of state and local government and the legislative process. And a little bit about the Emmanuel Jackson Senior Project. It's a nonprofit down in Delray Beach. It was founded by Emmanuel Dupree Jackson Jr. And his desire is to make a difference in the community. Inspired him to create an organization that gave power back to our youth. And he dedicated the organization to his late father and honored him by naming the organization after him. But we have these wonderful young people that are here with us this morning. We're delighted that you're in chambers and seeing how local government works, or maybe some people think doesn't work, but we think it works pretty good here in Palm Beach County. We're happy to have you here, and we would be delighted to have you come up and take a picture with us all. Come up come up here and join us.
I'll hide my blanket now. No, we're going to sit next to each other and share it. We're going to get one long blanket. No, you are cold. I am cold. Sweetheart, you were cold over there, too. I'm always cold. Well, you got to do something about that. Pull out my blanket.
Okay. I'm going to stay right here, but I'm going to take a picture for this gentleman. We're ready? You ready? You want to give him some instruction? You call it.
Make us look good. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Let's be a little more on this side. Everybody switches that way. Already this way.
Yeah, there you go.
All right. You could stand up, just perfect. We got it. Looks great.
Here we go.
One more. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. How wonderful it is to have young people join us this morning.
Ed, you want to sit? Put Ed right here if you don't mind, because I think he's got some PowerPoint stuff that he's working on, if that's okay.
We need more
Just,
chairs.
this is just a few of us. Just
All
a few.
right. Well, we are going to have, we are now on to item 5A1 on our regular agenda. And this, we're going to be given a 2023 legislative session report. And I will turn it over to Assistant County Administrator Todd Von Laren and Mr. Ed Chase.
Thank you, Mayor Weiss, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, Madam Administrator, Madam County Attorney. Before I do some introductions of our team that's before you, our county legislative team, we have a video that we just wanted to cue, a very brief 3-minute video to kind of get you in the right mood to hear a legislative update. So, it's great. Dun, 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 dun.
We're here at the Capitol in Tallahassee for Palm Beach County Day Legislate 2023.
Awesome. Thank you. Good morning. Welcome to Palm Beach County Days.
Palm Beach County Day has historically been an event where everybody from Palm Beach County's community, the business community, our educators, our not-for-profits, our cities, and our county all come together and send representatives up here for the start of the legislative session. It's a way for us collectively to put all of our legislative agendas together, support them equally, and show the legislature that we're here on equal footing, united to put our priorities before them, and that our expectations are that they work over the next 60 days to make those a reality for us back home.
Hold my call. This is awesome. Yeah. We got in to see people that we would hardly ever get to see on any ordinary given day. We came up here with our community partners and our business partners with the Economic Council and the Chambers of Commerce. So, when we're talking about issues that affect Palm Beach County, it's not just the county, it's the county and the community and the business, and that is received so well up here by legislators.
So to be able to come up here to Tallahassee and show the legislative members kind of what the special sauce is about the community, we're really excited to support that.
We get our legislative priorities in at the very beginning. So we set the stage.
Is really an opportunity for us to showcase our business leaders, give them an opportunity to interact directly with our legislators and executives up there, and it makes a big difference, I believe, in how successful we are in being able to support Palm Beach County.
To further the introductions for Palm Beach County Days in the gallery, please stand. We have Mayor Greg Weiss, Commissioner Maria Marino, Commissioner Mac Bernard, Commissioner Sarah Baxter, Commissioner Marcy Woodward, Commissioner Michael Barnett, and County Administrator Virginia Baker.
So legislated.
So legislate this.
Legislate this.
Let's legislate this.
Legislate this.
It's sort of like going to a conference. You can sit in class, which is fine, but sort of the after hours things when you can talk about, hey, I'm doing this, or I had success doing this. I found a best practice here. It's those after hours conversations that actually make this event worthwhile. Learning how to do things, learning from others, that's what Palm Beach County Day is all about.
It's been a very, very successful Palm Beach County Day.
We thought was a very, very successful legislative session for Palm Beach County. And that kind of effort from the Board of County Commissioners with our community partners really sets that tone for us, and it allows this team, and you're seeing some of them here with us today. I'll introduce a few of them. Lauren Jackson with Eric's Consultants, Andrea Tovar, who's here with Corcoran Partners, Omar Rashid with Johnson & Stewart, obviously Ed Chase, our Intergovernmental Director, Jerry O'Rourke with Converge, Casey Denny, our rock star legislative affairs director, Sean Pittman with Pittman Law Group, and Scott Stone with the County Attorney's Office. And this is just some of the team that we employ to help make our agenda a reality for you every year. And with that, we'd like to get started and share with you a little bit of some of the accomplishments that we were able to work on this legislative session. Casey?
Thanks, Todd. Is it still morning? Good afternoon, commissioners and mayor, vice mayor, Madam Administrator. We're just going to take a quick glance at the overview of this session. This was the first legislative session after 2022 redistricting. We started out with 2 new presiding officers, a large number of freshman members, new legislators. We welcomed new committees, committee chairs, and a Republican supermajority in both chambers. They were very busy this session, as they normally are, a little busier than previous years, though. You can see the numbers up there, over 1,800 bills and proposed committee bills filed this year. 356 bills made it across the finish line through both chambers. And this is actually much more than previous years. Usually that number hovers around 200, 280, somewhere in between there. Around 100 preemptions and mandates on local governments, and our team tracked over 200 bills and countless amendments on behalf of Palm Beach County. So we're going to take a quick look, start off here with Florida's fiscal year 23-24 budget. This year, legislative leadership was fully committed to ending on time, but in order to do that, they have to pass a budget. Sometimes this process, the budget conference process, causes delays, but not this year. Everything ran really smoothly, really efficiently. The chambers worked well together, and the final budget came in totaling at $117 billion, $46.5 billion of that coming from general revenue, and $70.5 billion coming from our trust funds. You can see on the pie chart sort of the breakout of the different silos and where the money was invested. Health and Human Services is always usually the largest chunk of the budget, followed by education. And this year, the legislature decided to set aside $10.9 billion in reserves. That comes from about half unallocated general revenue. We've got $4.1 billion for the Budget Stabilization Fund, and $1.4 billion for the Emergency Preparedness and Disaster Response Fund. That's the governor's disaster response fund. And then $200 million for the early retirement of some state debt. Diving into the Health and Human Services silo at $47.3 billion. Most notably, the Agency for Healthcare Administration receiving most of that at $35.6 billion. And the expansion of kid care access is going to be $20.6 million. This is a product of a bill that passed this year, House Bill 121, which expands the eligibility for kid care access in the state of Florida to help ensure more families and children. And also included in the Health and Human Services budget is $110,000 for the statewide study on community residence zoning. This was a Palm Beach County priority coming out of the state attorney's office, and this funding is going to commission a statewide study on zoning regulations for community residences for those with disabilities and in recovery communities to ensure that local governments are able to comply with certain federal regulations and standards when they're doing these zonings, and to provide a uniform template for them to work off of in the future. And I just want to mention before we move on, the items we're going to be talking about today are all pre-veto. The governor has not received the budget and made his vetoes yet, so some of these things are subject to change. And thank you all for your help putting together letters of support for our projects. Those are very important, and for reaching out to members of the governor's staff and letting them know how important these things are to our community.
In the area of education, what we saw were some pretty record fundings for K through 12 with $2.2 billion in increases, almost a 5% increase in FEFP per student. At the Florida college system, we saw one of the top priorities of our state college, $3 million emergency response training center that came up prominently in our joint meeting at our legislative delegation funded, and then the university system with healthy funding and about $40 million for 3 projects for Florida Atlantic University, which were their priorities. the area of transportation and economic development, we're seeing a little bit of changes in terms of Enterprise Florida and how that's going to be merged into a new department in the state. But Visit Florida with $80 million is pretty healthy to go with some of our local funding that we work on in the affordable housing area, which we have spent quite a bit of time before this board talking about that, $711 million. DOT, we always like to point out our SCOP transportation projects, the $9 million that we work on every year to ensure that our Glades communities have a bite at their own specific apple with some smaller cities around the state of Florida that compete with that. And then a banner year for cultural and museum programs that you'll see in our broader legislative agenda, dozens and dozens of our local organizations here funded. And then in this tranche also, some of our 3 priorities, Peanut Island Historic Reservation, funded at $750,000, TD funding at $1 million, and then our Central Palm Beach County Historic Infrastructure, which I know is a priority of Commissioner Barnett's, also funded at $1 million.
When we look at some of our agricultural and natural resources appropriations, we look at Everglades restoration at almost $580 million. Beach management funding was fully funded plus some this year. The regular beach funding amount of $50 million was included, and that includes a number of projects here in Palm Beach County. Beach projects would be Juno Beach, Jupiter Carlin, Midtown Beach on Palm Beach, North Boca Raton Shore Protection, Fifth Ocean Park, and South Jupiter Beach Restoration. That also includes 4 inlet management plans for Boca Raton, Jupiter, Lake Worth, and South Lake Worth. This bill included $433 million in water projects. Included in that is $70 million for the 3rd funding phase of the C-51 reservoir. Counting that $70 million, that brings funding over the past 3 years to $183 million for the reservoir. We did receive funding for Green Cave Phase 2 at $3 million. I want to thank Senator Polsky and Representative Skidmore for filing those bills. The Glades infrastructure improvements, trying to make sure that the movement of water from our water plant is secure. So we did able to get $1.5 million for that, and I want to thank Senator Berman and Representative Rick Roth for that. And 2 of our water initiatives, our local initiatives, the Lake Worth Lagoon Initiative was fully funded at $2.86 million, and there are 5 projects there. They were sponsored by Senator Powell and a consortium of Representative Caruso, Representative Edmonds, and Representative Gossett-Seidman. And our Loxahatchee River Preservation Initiative was fully funded, and there are 6 projects there. And I wanted to thank Senator Gail Harrell and Representative Snyder for sponsoring those. You'll see just some numbers in the right-hand column, some hunger numbers, $17.5 million for feeding programs in Feeding Florida. And you'll see under the Department of Management Services, $40 million will come to local governments in cybersecurity grants. When we look at our civil and criminal justice budget, you will see a number of items. One is E-Verify staffing for $1 million. That will come as a result of Senate Bill 1718, the immigration bill. So that will require some additional staffing for Department of Law Enforcement as well as the Department of Economic Opportunity, Department of Commerce going forward. Under Department of Juvenile Justice, you'll see $5.56 million for pre-construction services for center replacement. That does include the West Palm Beach facility, something we've been working on for the past couple of years. So the agency was able to keep that in their budget, and we're very happy about that. At the very bottom of that page, you'll see 2 local county priorities, 2 of your priorities. One is the Restore Reentry Program that was fully funded at $500,000. And Senator Berman and Representative Catherine Waldron were our sponsors there, so we thank them. And the Balanced Community Justice Program was funded. You might recall that was a product of your joint meeting with the legislative delegation. That was an idea that bubbled up between you and Representative Edmonds, and I want to thank he and Senator Powell, as well as Regina Herring from the Criminal Justice Commission for putting that request together and getting that funded.
And we hit on all of these projects as we went through our slides, but this is just a summary slide reflecting all of our priorities that were requested on behalf of the county and the total of $11.89 million that we secured in the final budget.
So just over the next 4 pages, we had a number of different items that were part of our team's spreadsheets when we were up there fighting for a lot of items, and also supported by the Board of County Commissioners, $1 million for 211 funding, Alpert Jewish Family Services, I know important to Vice Mayor Sachs, some Boca Raton projects in Commissioner Woodward's district, Bush Wildlife Sanctuary, which I know is a priority of Commissioner Marino, some of our Belglade projects that we worked with Commissioner Baxter on, and then a few Delray ones as well. We worked with the L's for Autism team on $1.25 million for, or $1 million for their facility and their complex there. Our Field of Dreams with the Edna Runner Center. I know that's one that Commissioner Marino and I worked the hall during this legislative session. Indian Trail Improvement District, $500,000 for some outfalls. Lantana Water Main replacement in Commissioner Barnett's region as well. And then also we saw out in Loxahatchee Grove some stormwater system rehabilitation. In Palm Springs, some EOC hardening. Our Palm Beach County Food Bank with $400,000, and then some projects in Riviera Beach, as well as Royal Palm Beach, just over $1 million in Riviera and $1 million in Royal Palm. And then ending it out on the next page, some South Bay water, and also 11th Avenue improvements that we work with the mayor and the city manager on those. 3 projects for YMCA, Town of Magnolia Park, Jupiter, North Palm, and then also some West Palm Beach projects. These are really just a snapshot, too, of a lot of the hundreds of millions of dollars of funding that are coming to Palm Beach County for road projects, for some of those cultural organizations as well. But we wanted to just point out a few of those for you, Ed.
And we will move on to some of the policy accomplishments of the legislature this year. At the midterm, Todd and I addressed you on some of the top 10 governor and legislative leadership priorities. So we'll quickly do a rundown on that top 10 list. Number 10 was tax holidays. That was passed and signed. We'll have a slide on that with a little more information to come. Number 9 was school vouchers. So HB1 would make every Florida student eligible for taxpayer-funded vouchers that could be used for private school tuition or other expenses. On school board, there were 2 items. HJR 31 would have a vote in the 2024 November election to amend the Florida Constitution to change school board races from nonpartisan to partisan races for school board. Also, HB 477 passed an 8-year term limit for school board members, shortening that time limit from 12, which was passed the year before. Number 7, lawsuits limits. There were changes to help shield businesses and insurance companies from costly lawsuits. One was eliminating what are known as one-way attorney fees in lawsuits against insurers. Also, they reduced the time from 4 years to 2 years on which a statute of limitation for filing negligence lawsuits. Number 6 would be immigration. So a couple of key items on there that will require all private employers to participate and use the E-Verify system to verify employment eligibility. Currently, under governor order, all public entities must use E-Verify. This would make all private employers use that as well. It does require hospitals that receive Medicaid funding to collect patient immigration status on their admission forms. It will prohibit counties and municipalities from providing funds to any organization to issue identification documents. Here in Palm Beach County, that would be the Legal Aid Society of Palm Beach County. They produce the community ID of the Palm Beaches. They will still be able, as an organization, to produce those cards. We, as a local government, would not be able to submit funding to help them do that. Number 5, on guns. The law was passed that would allow all residents of the state of Florida to carry concealed weapons without obtaining a state license or permit. There was a House venture to lower the purchasing age of long guns from 21 to 18, but that did not pass, did not even make it through the Senate. Number 4, defamation is actually the only of their top 10 items that did not go through the legislative process and pass. So this was an attempt to weaken the protection for journalists and make it easier to sue news media for defamation. It would have probably run immediately afoul of a Supreme Court ruling in 1964, Times v. Sullivan. So there were barriers to that going forward, which probably kept it from moving forward. But of these top 10 items, this is the only one that did not make it through the legislative process. Number 3 is death penalty reform, and the bill that was passed would allow death sentences based on the recommendations of 8 of 12 jurors instead of a unanimous 12 jury. Number 2, abortion was the Senate Bill 300 that would ban physicians from performing abortions beyond 6 weeks of pregnancy, but it would make exceptions in the case of rape, incest, human trafficking, fatal fetal abnormalities, or if the health of the mother was at risk of severe injury or death. And number 1 going in was affordable housing. That's the Live Local Act. We've talked about that at length, and you had a good presentation on that last Tuesday. So of those top 10 items going in by the governor and leadership, you can see that they were able to pass 9 of them. For some preemption and mandates, I will turn it over to Andrea Tovar from Corcoran Partners.
Good morning. Thanks for having us, and thanks for the opportunity to serve and represent Palm Beach County in the legislature in Tallahassee. I'm going to give you a brief overview on SB 170 on local ordinances and HB 3 on corporate and government activism. So SB 170 allows businesses to sue county and city governments if they believe the local ordinance is arbitrary or unreasonable. The bill requires local governments to produce a business impact estimate before enacting any ordinance, including the ordinance's purpose, the estimated economic impact on the business, and the compliance costs. The bill would not apply to ordinances relating to the adoption of your budget, to procurement, compliance of state and federal laws, land development, planning, emergency ordinances, or ordinances implementing your building and fire codes. Local governments would be required to suspend enforcement of ordinances if a lawsuit is brought within 90 days of the enactment of the ordinance to challenge that ordinance. Courts would have to give these lawsuits priorities on their docket and sanction plaintiffs who file frivolous lawsuits. Prevailing plaintiffs, however, could be awarded $50,000 in attorney's fees. The bill has not yet been sent to the governor, has not been signed, but if he signs, it would take effect October 1st of this year. HB 3, government and corporate activism, was a priority of Speaker Renner and also the governor, requiring funds invested by state and local governments to be invested in a manner that prioritizes only the highest return on investment without consideration of social, political, or ideological interests. Under HB 3, local governments are prohibited from considering economic, social, and corporate governance, aka ESG principles, when making investment decisions. With respect to your procurement process, state and local officials may no longer consider ESG factors when awarding government contracts, and HB 3 expressly prohibits favoring any vendors based on such factors. In addition, the bill would prohibit public bond issuers from issuing ESG bonds and financial institutions from denying or canceling services based on political or religious beliefs, social credit scores, or other factors that are not impartial and risk-based standards. The Attorney General will be authorized to bring civil and administrative actions to enforce this bill. This bill, again, was a governor priority and was signed back on May 2nd and takes effect July 1st.
Good morning. So I'm going to talk a little bit about these 3 bills. SB 258, much to the chagrin of any Zillennials you may have on staff, unfortunately would have the state create preempt to the state a prohibition on certain applications on government phones that have to do with cybersecurity or a risk to your infrastructure. So any apps, most popularly TikTok, that are on government phones after the creation of a prohibited list, 15 days after the creation of the list, would have to be removed from the phone. In addition to the VPN network for the county would have to block any of such apps. So the bill has been signed by the governor. The Department of Management Services, in consultation with Florida Digital Service, is involved in the rulemaking process. That list has not been created yet, so for the moment, the apps are on your phone, but after 15 days, they will be removed. SB 346 has to do, well, the original iteration of the bill would have had both state-funded and local-funded projects, local preferences removed from the procurement process. Thanks to the good work of the people at this table and the county, we were able to get the local portion of that removed. And so now it is all state-funded public works projects that would take away the local preferences. But thankfully, we were able to get that local portion shifted. It also shifts the timeline for the punch list for projects greater than 10 million. It goes from 60 to 45 days, and then for less than 10 million, 3 days remains. For residential tenancies, HB 1417, this simply preempts all aspects of the landlord-tenant relationship to the state. Obviously, given the ordinance that we have here in the county, that would go away after the signing of the bill. Well, the bill takes effect July 1st. It has not yet been sent to the governor. It has not yet been signed.
Hi, Lauren Jackson with Eric's Consultants. So just real quickly, because I have a big list here. So SB 144, that requires a minimum of at least one designated lactation space in county courthouses. HB 1373, that's really targeting Miami-Dade situation as they transition over to an elected sheriff, but it prohibits a county from taking over services or duties that are meant to be under a separately elected county constitutional officer. SB 942, that bill adds weight and size to the regulations that local governments cannot regulate. And so it also requires that public housing has to set up a process to allow for dog ownership as well. SB 752, that bill is really targeting these pop-up kitchens that became very popular during the pandemic, but it preempts regulations surrounding those temporary commercial kitchens. And it's also an issue that's coming up from Miami-Dade largely as well. HB 1281, that is getting at gas stove preemptions, which really weren't really occurring in the state just yet, but they were trying to get ahead of that, and so that prohibits restrictions based on appliances, whether they're electric appliances or natural gas appliances. It has to do with ACs and also stoves, et cetera. HB 1521, that requires that certain public buildings and public facilities that they enforce a ban on members of the opposite sex using the same restroom at the same time. You have to set up a process where someone can report someone of the opposite sex using the restroom they're not supposed to, and also you have to certify compliance as well. And then SB 238 and 252, those bills make permanent our COVID-19 policy, essentially, where we prohibited mask mandates, vaccine passports, and discrimination based on vaccine status, and mask wearing status, et cetera, and that would make those permanent.
So in the list of preemptions and mandates bills that failed this session, House Bill 1197, that was a bill going into session that would have prevented counties and municipalities from adopting laws, regulations, or policies relating to pretty much anything related to water quality, water quantity, pollution control, and prevention, or wetlands. This bill was sponsored by a member in the northern part of the state whose family member had a grievance with a local government. So this bill did not have a single hearing. Senate Bill 1110 was term limits for county commissioners. That would have established an 8-year term limit for all county commissioners throughout the state. This bill was kind of split at one point in time. So the school board bill that was once attached to this stayed. The bill limiting 8-year terms to county commissioners did not pass. House Bill 671 was a bill on residential building permits, so it, among other things, it would have drastically shortened timeframes for review and approval for permit applications. It would have established a time frame in which a permit is automatically deemed approved, and it would have added restrictions on the amount of times additional project information could be requested by a local government. That bill, again, was not passed. Senate Joint Resolution 1066 was a recall of county officers and commissioners. So current law only allows recall of county commissioners for charter counties. This proposed an amendment to the state constitution to allow the legislature to provide by general law for the recall of any county commissioner. 1317, local regulation of non-conforming or unsafe structures. It provided that a local government may not prohibit, restrict, or prevent the demolition of any applicable structure for any reason other than public safety. This was a bill that was fought very viciously by the Florida League of Cities that led to its demise. 1361, organic material products. This would have added the phrase organic material as a bona fide farm operation to the Florida Right to Farm Act. The bill defined organic material as to mean vegetative matter resulting from landscaping, maintenance, or land clearing operations. The bill also would have provided for the collection, storage, processing, or distribution of materials that are deemed within a bona fide farm operation, or the lands associated with the operation are deemed agricultural and thus protected from local government oversight. Senate Bill 740 would have created a statewide blue ribbon task force to explore the advantages and disadvantages of consolidating counties. The task force would have looked at a number of issues, including county size, population, the efficiency and effectiveness of county government, and impact on the economy. Senate Bill 833 was the vacation rental bill. It is a bill that died in the Senate on the very last day of session after much back and forth between the House and the Senate. It did include some preemptions on rental platforms, but it also did at one point require a point of contact requirement to give to local governments. So we had some good and some otherwise in that bill there. Again, it died on the in the last hours of the legislative session and so we would expect that to be brought up again next session. And finally, 917, the wage and employment benefit. This would have prohibited local governments from seeking to control the wages or employment benefits or awarding preferences on the basis of wage or employment benefits. So it basically would have eliminated Palm Beach County's prevailing wage as we have with certain vendors and certain contracts.
Okay, other local government issues. I'm going to spend a little bit of time here on some of these bills. We had some hands in Senate Bill 256. This bill revises laws governing unions that represent public employees in collective bargaining. A few of the notable changes include a prohibition against unions receiving dues or assessments via automatic salary deductions by their employer, as well as a requirement that unions be recertified if the number of employees paying dues is less than 60% of the employees eligible for representation. It also has a requirement that allows members of a union to revoke their membership at any time without reason. It expands the list of prohibited activities by unions and their representatives. There were initial concerns raised by some of the unions that the bill would cause issues with regard to federal transit funding because similar legislation in other states had produced sort of some confusion. We worked with Senator Harrell's office as well as the Senate President's office to get an amendment that made sure that this would not impact our federal transit dollars, and we're successful in that. And this bill was signed by the governor and is effective immediately. Senate Bill 540, Local Government Comprehensive Plans, states that in comprehensive plans and plan amendments, the prevailing party is entitled to recover attorneys' fees and costs, and states that land development regulations relating to any characteristic other than the use or intensity or density of use do not apply to Florida college system institutions. Senate Bill 718, Local Government, changes requirements for annexation and contraction, requiring a feasibility study of a municipality of interest to the county. The bill has a prohibition against local governments from requiring an initiative or referendum process for amendments to land development regulations. Currently, law generally prohibits an initiative or referendum process for a development order, local comp plan amendment, or map amendment. This adds land development regulations to that list. House Bill 1383, specialty contractors. This legislation sought to address some concerns that arose from a bill that passed in 2021 during COVID, which preempted locally licensed occupations to the state. That bill allowed us and other local governments who had already been licensing these occupations to continue to license them for 2 years until July 1, 2023, unless the legislature did something about that. There were concerns that our local licensing board has heard from citizens about the impacts of that. This legislation did kick that can down the road another year, so that expiration is now July 1, 2024 on the local licenses, and it also requires the State Construction Licensing Board to establish certain licenses for voluntary licensure. Most notably, it prohibits a local government from requiring a license to perform a job scope outside of those established by the CLIB licenses, and we're not allowed to require a license as a prerequisite to submit a bid for public works projects if the license is not required by general law. Palm Beach County worked with the Florida Association of Counties and others on this legislation, as well as with PZMB, to make sure that this was something we could work with. There were solutions proposed at the beginning when the bills were first filed. There were 4 different bills addressing this issue. But as time ran out during session, they decided to give it another year. So I would expect more to come next year on this issue. Senate Bill 1418 amends Florida law to support the transition to Next Generation 911 and make changes to the state board that oversees emergency communications. Now, any changes, modifications, or upgrades to emergency communications system or services must be made in cooperation with the head of each law enforcement agency that is served by the primary PSAP, or Public Safety Answering Port, in our county. That bill was signed as well. Senate Bill 1604, Land Use and Development Regulations, increases the length of the required planning period included in a comp plan to a 10 and 20-year period from 5 and 10 years, and revises the comp plan evaluation and appraisal process. There's some land development regulations required, and most notably, the bill requires land development regulations adopted by a local government to establish minimum lot sizes consistent with maximum density authorized by the comp plan. It also allows us to require certain building design elements for buildings located in a planned unit development that was established before July 1, 2023, and includes an independent special districts provision, which was amended into the legislation addressing Disney's Reedy Creek Improvement District. This bill was also signed by the governor. And then lastly, of the bills that passed, the implementing bill 2502. Every now and then, some language pops up during conference that surprises everybody. Local governments saw some language pop up last minute that prohibits a county or municipality from adopting or amending a fertilizer ordinance. Some of our local municipalities have fertilizer ordinances that would be affected by this. It's a pause for 1 year, so that expires July 1, 2024, and what they do after that is for another session. So we're gonna keep an eye on this issue as we're preparing for the next session as well. And 2 of the bills that a lot of local governments were up in arms over, solid waste management, 975 and 798. These bills would have prevented cities and counties from entering into exclusive service agreements for commercial, industrial, and multifamily properties. And that bill did not make it across the process. It would have allowed us to require a permit or a license to do so, but we could not enter into exclusive agreements. So that one failed towards the end of session.
Some of the statewide legislation of significance, and I'll just touch on a couple of these briefly. The legislature made some changes to, in relation to the collapse of the building in Surfside, and created some different exceptions in terms of inspections, when they occur, what types of buildings, their height and proximity to the coastline. In addition, they also made some changes in this legislation regarding how associations were required to reserve their funds, and provided a little bit of flexibility for some of those associations with Senate Bill 154. On the elections bill, on 750, there were a number of issues that were addressed in this piece of legislation, but a couple just to note, as we talk about the impacts of legislation locally, a few items in here, we're certainly going to create some costs to local governments. Issues like reprinting of vote by mail to include different language that needs to be on there, reprinting of voter ID cards that need to be issued to voters throughout the area, as well as when and the timing that supervisors of elections have to clean some of their voting rolls. And some of the work that goes into that. So to name a few, those are some of those election items that we see there. House Bill 269 is one that I think many of you are familiar, because we passed a local ordinance very similar, and through the leadership of Mayor Weiss on this particular item, he came to Tallahassee twice with me to testify on this bill, helps to combat the rise in anti-Semitic activities that we've seen in the state of Florida, particularly the projection of disgusting images on buildings, as well as the use of literature that people use to throw in individuals' yards or locations. And so the legislature put some more teeth into what we were able to do here locally. So congratulations to this entire board and our legislative delegation, particularly Mike Caruso, Representative Caruso, who championed that issue for us. And then what failed were some of those changes in sovereign immunity that could have been some significant increases, $2.5 to $5 million for cases involving local governments or any governments covered by sovereign immunity. That did not pass, but we expect to see that back. And then on retirement, I think this is a big issue that a lot of employees around the state of Florida and at local governments were surprised maybe to see. But in addition to the state providing 5% across the board salary increases for all of their state employees, they made some significant changes to retirement, particularly as it relates to drop. So they changed the early retirement for special risk classification, moving that back to age 55 with 8 years, back to 25 years of service for somebody age 55 with 8 years of service. And then also in drop, they expanded drop from 5 years to 8 years of participation for employees. And they even made that longer for certain teachers from 8 to 10 years, and then also increased some of the interest rates for doing that. The estimated impacts for local governments around the state of Florida on this particular retirement issue was about $325 million. Previous iterations and versions had that in the billions of dollars, so that was pared down, but this is something that has both the fiscal impact for local governments as well as for the state.
Moving on to the tax package, you can see a long list of permanent sales tax exemptions, including baby and toddler products, oral hygiene products, firearm safety devices, agricultural fencing, a couple others there. There's some one-year sales tax exemptions for gas ranges and cooktops, as well as Energy Star appliances, and a couple of other items sprinkled in the tax package: a corporate income tax credit for gray water systems, a freeze of local communication service tax rates for 3 years, business rent tax cut 4.5%, and a delay of the natural gas fuel tax for 2 years, and a prohibition of special assessments on agricultural property that came from a bill that we'll talk about a little later that was moved over to the tax package. And then you can see on the side there the sales tax holidays that the legislature has planned for. There's 2 back-to-school holidays, 2 disaster preparedness holidays, both are 14 days long, and then there's a 14-week Freedom Summer holiday for sales tax exemptions on certain recreational items and event tickets, things like that, and then a 7-day tools for skilled workers holiday for specified tools for different trades that were included. You'll hear a little bit more on tourist development taxes in a minute from Omar, but the bill did include an increase to the population cap under which certain counties are authorized to use up to 10% of TDTs for public safety expenses that are necessitated by tourism. That cap was moved from $225,000 to $275,000. And the bill appropriates $35 million to reimburse local governments for the property tax refunds that were issued to property owners whose property was damaged during Hurricanes Ian and Nicole in 2022.
HB 7053 was a committee bill that was proposed prior to the state funding $80 million for Visit Florida. So this was a bit of a conversation starter when it came to how Visit Florida was going to be funded, and not necessarily not funding it, but putting some parameters around using the tourist development tax to go towards the funding of Visit Florida. It did not pass. It did not have a Senate companion. Obviously, a lot of these issues have been at play since the speaker was a freshman, so it was no surprise that they were putting this position out there. HB 309 also has to do with tourist development taxes, particularly for fiscally constrained counties. It would have allowed counties to use up to 10% of their tax to reimburse public safety initiatives. That did not pass either. And the entertainment industry tax credit, HB 251, which has been proposed a couple different years now, also did not pass.
Some health and human services bills, Senate Bill 210, substance abuse services. This was a priority of the state attorney's addiction recovery task force here in Palm Beach Gardens. That bill was sponsored by Senator Harrell and Representative Caruso. We want to thank them for their steadfast service on our sober homes issues for the past couple of years on this bill as well. 1550 was an issue of trying to increase transparency and accountability with prescription drugs, including triggering a variety of reporting and disclosure requirements for pharmacy benefit managers. And Senate Bill 1580 provides that healthcare providers and healthcare payers have the right to opt out of participation or in payment of certain healthcare services on the basis of conscience-based objections.
Hi, good morning. Jared O'Rourke with Converge Public Strategies. I'm going to talk today about 3 bills that, regarding education that did pass both chambers and were subsequently signed by the governor. Mainly dealing one with the allowable uses of funds by state universities, others for technology for students, and then start times that are going to be mandated with a July 2026 deadline to begin. So Senate Bill 266, higher education, prohibits state colleges and universities from expending funds to promote, support, or maintain programs that advocate for diversity, equity, inclusion, or engage in political or social activism. Again, this did pass both chambers and was signed by the governor. House Bill 379 regarding technology in schools. This bans the use of technology and phones by students during instructional hours. It also prohibits the use of or access to social media platforms on district-provided internet systems or technology. This also will require education on social media and the effects of children for grades 6 to 12. Then lastly, House Bill 733 mandates that beginning in or by July 1, 2026, public and charter middle schools should have a start time of 8 a.m. and then public and charter high schools should begin no later than 8:30 a.m.
Moving on to Transportation and Economic Development, House Bill 5, which was a priority of the Speaker. They were finally successful in repealing Enterprise Florida and its programs. They're going to shift all duties, functions, and funds that are ongoing to the Department of Economic Opportunity, which will now be named the Department of Commerce under the bill. House Bill 1123, Palm Beach County worked with the Florida Airports Council to spearhead this and get this across the finish line. I'm happy to report the governor did sign this bill on Friday, so we're very pleased about that. Ed refers to this as the Laura Beebe Board Appearance Reduction Act. So we were able to raise that threshold amount for what airport contracts will be placed on the regular agenda. Now that's broken out by airport classification hub. So any contracts that are $1 million or under, we would have loved to see that threshold increased. We'll work on that in future years, but it's going to provide a lot of clarity for airports across the state. So we're looking forward to that, and Laura is very happy. House Bill 425 dealt with a variety of DOT issues. Most notable to the county is there used to be, and as it was originally filed, the bill included a prohibition on no more than 20% of the revenues in the state transportation fund going towards public projects. We were able to have conversations with the bill sponsors, and they did remove that piece from the bill, so we were successful in doing that. And there will be no cap. House Bill 1209, this started out as the DEO agency package, and it included a few things that Palm Beach County supports in their state agenda. Most notably, the bill as it was passed included changes to the Rural Infrastructure Fund that's going to be critical for the Glades region and the demucking out there, so we're really pleased to see that. Unfortunately, I'm going to skip ahead a little bit to the failed section. Our eligibility changes for the Everglades Workforce Training Program were included originally in the bill. They are supported by DEO. Unfortunately, as that bill moved through the process and bounced, those got removed, but we have the support of DEO and of our delegation members moving forward, so we're going to work on that next session. Senate Bill 106, Florida Shared Use Non-Motorized Trail Network. This connects our non-motorized trail network and helps foster ecotourism. This was a priority of the Senate President and provided a $200 million appropriation to do that. Bills that failed, House Bill 235, Senate Bill 350, Alternative Mobility Funding Systems. This was the bill that would have created a statutory framework for cities to collect mobility fees in lieu of voter-approved county impact fees. The House bill continued to rise from the ashes, but we were successful in defeating it this year, and we worked with many stakeholders in other counties on this legislation, so we'll keep an eye on that moving forward. And then lastly, on the failed section, House Bill 807, Senate Bill 1700, vehicles for hire. This would have required us to provide reciprocity to a vehicle for hire licensed in another jurisdiction without them being subject to our regulations or our fees. And we were successful in amending out the provision of this bill that applied this to airports, because it is very difficult for our airport to implement that with the way that they do fees, as well as in exempting our non-emergency transport vehicle, medical transport vehicles, where we think that safety regulations are important. This bill did not pass, but we do expect it to come back in the future, so we'll keep an eye on that as well. Moving into agriculture and natural resources, water and wastewater facility operators. This is geared to get more of these operators into our state and provide reciprocal licensure. House Bill 111, sea level rise studies, requires a slip study, not just for buildings within the coastal building zone, but any building that is going to be subject to sea level rise. And the bill also expands the Resilient Florida Grant Program to provide funding to cities and counties for feasibility studies for solutions that reduce the impact of flooding and sea level rise. House Bill 1191, use of phosphogypsum. This bill authorizes DOT to do a study to determine if this is an appropriate material for construction for roads, and allows them to do demonstration projects. There were some concerns by some members about the impacts to our environment, but this bill only authorizes a study and demonstration projects. So we'll continue to monitor that as it moves forward. And then a couple of the bills that failed, a sanitary sewer lateral inspection program. We've seen iterations of that bill in the past, would have allowed us to set up one of these programs. 669 and 950 would have made changes to the PACE program for consumer protection reasons. And 979 and 1072, dealing with deep water port dredging. There were concerns about how these impacts of the bill on our beach restoration projects and permitting for those. We'll continue to work with the bill sponsor on that. And then lastly, 1343, agricultural properties. This would have allowed for the construction and installation of temporary housing for certain agricultural workers. The bill did not make it across the finish line, would have allowed us to adopt, or prevented us from adopting land use or zoning regulations. Requiring that there is a termination of the agricultural classification for a property that's being used for bona fide ag purposes.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. And want to talk just a little bit about some notable civil and criminal justice bills that made it through the House and the Senate. House Bill 119, visiting county and municipal detention facilities. This was a bill that authorized governing bodies with detention facilities under their purview to actually visit these facilities that they that's under their purview anytime they want. Before 119, basically the local government determined how and when, and the process of regulation of how that would happen. This bill basically says that if it's under your purview, that you can, and it's within your county, you can visit at any time. And I think in Palm Beach County, is there 14 facilities? Okay, so that was worthy and of note. Also, House Bill 1627, pretrial release and detention. It established a statewide uniformity as it relates to bond schedules for lower level crimes. It differentiates between those violent and capital crimes, which would require a detention hearing in those cases, and would require the Supreme Court by January 1st, 2024, to set those schedules. It would prohibit judges from releasing a person prior to first appearance if the arrested person meets certain criteria, and those are DUIs, BUIs, some trafficking, fentanyl trafficking, extortion, written threats to kill lists of a dangerous crime. Notable there too is the Supreme Court would allow the chief judge to establish a bond schedule that is higher, but would prohibit them doing so if it's lower. So that's also very notable. And I think Senate Bill 164 got quite a lot of press, the controlled substance testing, and I know many of you are aware of it, but it decriminalizes fentanyl testing strips and other narcotic drug testing products that would identify that fentanyl or other dangerous products are within these substances. I will note, though, that it doesn't exclude some of the other testing products that we have seen, like the quantity, the weight, the potency of the controlled substance. It doesn't exclude that, but it does exclude, any of these fentanyl-related compounds, analogs, derivatives. It prohibits all of those things, excludes it, so that we can save some lives. And unfortunately, some people that are using can save their own life if possible.
Thank you, Sean. Senate Bill 164, that was sponsored by Senator Tina Polsky, and we're happy she was able to get that across the finish line. Finally, some local bills that affected Palm Beach County. 943 transferred some land from within the Pine Tree Water Control District into the Acme Water Control District. That way the Village of Wellington could pay for some improvements in that area. The Jupiter Inlet District hasn't codified their charter since 2000. This just updated their charter, lowered their millage from 3 to 1.5, and changed a few other items. 1049 was a codification of the Boca Raton Airport Authority. Just updated a few things within their issues, including changing the frequency of board meetings and updating the power of the board. One of the local bills that did not have a hearing was House Bill 1113, the Village of Loxahatchee, creating the Village of Loxahatchee. So that was at least the second year in a row that that bill did not have a hearing. The faces that you see in front of you today is your lobby team in Tallahassee. I am very proud to say that you probably have one of the strongest lobbying teams in Tallahassee of any county or any municipality in the state. Missing only today is our team from Anfield Consulting, which does all of our water and natural resources appropriations, and they are just absolutely superstars. So we do miss them here. Part of our team is in the back of the room, and that includes our Palm Tran Government Affairs Director, Deborah Posey Blocker, also our legislative delegation team, the Executive Director, Victoria Nolan, as well as the delegation aide, Janea Mercado. This would not have happened without their efforts, and we are, as we walk in Tallahassee, we walk right next to them the entire way through. I do want to thank our team at Channel 20 for that video that you saw at the beginning of our presentation. That was absolutely fantastic, and we appreciate their hard work on that effort. Again, we're happy to present lots of successes and a few diminishments here, but I think overall, looking at the amount of money that we were able to get pre-veto, we are very pleased with that. Looking at our policy initiatives, we are very pleased with those. And looking at our new legislative director, Casey Denny, we are very pleased with her efforts in her rookie season and just knocked it out of the park.
And that is our very comprehensive legislative update.
It was very comprehensive. But thank you all for being here, and I know some folks from the board have some comments and questions, so we'll go ahead and open it up. But I just want to thank you all for a great year for Palm Beach County, and also excellent presentation. Vice Mayor, you're recognized.
Very impressive. You went up there with, should we say, like one hand behind your back and working hard to get things passed or failed, as it may be. The bottom line is you brought home a lot of money. And those funds are sorely needed here in the county for our staff, for the organizations, for the people of this county. And I want to thank you both. I know last night, Todd must have been on for 2 hours last night giving a comprehensive legislative update to the people of this county as well. And I'm really impressed to have Mr. Pittman join our team. You got some heavy hitters here. You got some really hard workers with us up there, and I'm so proud of especially bringing down so much funding for the people of this county. Other things that you couldn't, just sometimes you just can't make things happen legislatively. But you did damn good job, and you brought home some good funding. Thank you for your efforts. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Commissioner Baxter, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to tell everyone, thank you, really, for what an amazing experience. Palm Beach County Days, going around to all of our House reps, senators, being shown really everything that has to offer, and being so helpful, explaining bills, how it works, the entire process. It was really, really enjoyable. So I just wanted to say thank you to everyone.
Thank you, Commissioner. All right, anyone else? Okay, well, again, thank you all for being here. Thank you for all you do for us up in Tallahassee. Casey, excellent first year on our behalf, really hit it out of the park, as they say. And to our lobby team, thank you all. You're the ones that are really helping us get this stuff done, and so our community benefits from it. So thank you again. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Mayor. If we could
We'll
just
see
have
you
a
in a few
motion.
months.
If we could just have a motion to receive and
Oh,
file
yes.
the
Oh, I'm sorry.
agenda item.
Thank you very much. I forgot we had to work here.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Marino, a second by the Vice Mayor. This is a motion to receive and file this report. All in favor, all opposed, that motion carries 6-0.
Thank you.
All righty. Couple other items to take care of. All right, we have on item 5B1, this is a motion to preliminary reading and grant permission to advertise an ordinance of the Board of County Commissioners, Palm Beach County, for our Unified Land Development Code. So this, again, this is a motion to be able to advertise public hearing on July 11th.
Right. Mayor, I don't think we need a presentation because we've already had it, but we do have 2 speaking cards.
Yeah,
Okay,
if
we
you
have-
would like, the main item is just for the advertisement, but it will also, at the next meeting in July, when we bring back the actual ordinance, it changes the makeup of our committee.
So this is just a motion to advertise. We have a motion by Commissioner Marino, we have a second by the Vice Mayor. We have 2 speaking cards on the motion to advertise.
Richard Radcliffe and Michelle DePotter.
You're fine.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. League doesn't really have a great interest in one way or the other. We agree with this. Just a couple of points of history going back to the Impact Fee Review Committee. It originally, this is going to increase the size. This was originally 3 city municipal representatives and 3 business representatives, and then there was an at-large representative. And this was done because the developers or business create the impact, but they also pay for the impact. And the other side were the 3 from the municipalities, and they are the receivers of the impact. When these increases create infrastructure issues, they feel the impact, the cities, and they also are the receivers of the compensation. So this was done as a simple, and it's been going on for 20 years. Just a couple of points. It didn't mention, the League of Cities has been providing the representatives for 20 years. So it would make sense if you're going to change the ordinance or amend the ordinance to add the Palm Beach County League of Cities as the supplier, which we've done and I'm sure we continue to do. The other thing is, if you're going to expand the size of it, it would seem to be if you're going to go from, they wanted to add 1 more, but then they said, well, we'll add 1 more and make it an odd number. So, but it would seem to make, if you were going to add 1 more and it was going to be a business, that would make 4 businesses. It would make sense to add 4 municipalities instead of the 3, and then keep 1 at-large instead of having 2 at-large members. That way you have the balance. Otherwise, they're going to just create 2 at-large members. I don't think the league has a strong feeling or position on this, because this is a very challenging committee to man and to monitor, because it's very, very intense in its analysis, but it's a very important committee. So with that, it was just kind of a point of history and some clarifications on what we feel would be just balance and good government. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Michelle DePotter, CEO of the AGC Florida East Coast Chapter, 515 North Flagler, Suite 910, West Palm Beach, your neighbor. I just wanted to thank you all for moving this item forward. I wanted to thank Commissioner Bernard. He actually moved it forward back in September. Thank you, Mayor Weiss, Commissioner Marino, Commissioner Sachs for supporting that. And thank you today for the new commissioners, Woodward, Barnett, and Baxter, for supporting this. We are pleased to be part of the business community for all of these years, but we also are unique in what we do. We're not a chamber, and the chamber are our friends, and we all are the business community. But thank you for recognizing the uniqueness of AGC since 1949 as being the construction association in Palm Beach County, representing every aspect of construction, road builders, vertical, high-end residential, commercial, and developers. And we're looking forward to getting back to having a seat at the table and working together with the county. Thank you, Virginia, for you and your team for putting this item together to move forward for public advertising. We appreciate it. Thanks. That was it.
All right, we don't have any other, Commissioner Baxter, you recognize.
My question was for Michelle, if that's all right.
Yes, Commissioner.
Michelle, you seem to be an expert in this particular area and with your organization. So I wanted to ask, how do you feel about the term limit section of this? I have hesitations with just removing them altogether, but kind of in favor of maybe adding 1 additional term.
Well, actually, I believe that we spoke up. I'm probably on the record saying that we don't think that there should be term limits because of the unique expertise that's on there. You've got individuals on there that have given and lended years of their time and effort, and they know this issue when it comes up. We used to be part of that back in the day. I think Virginia was 2009, 2012 maybe. You've got Lord Ecclestone on there. You've got the home builders, and AGC would support no term limits on this for this particular.
That's very helpful. Thank you.
Huh? That's it? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that was easy. Thank you, everybody.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. This is to advertise. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, all opposed, that motion carries 6-0. All right, and then on to item 5C1, A, B, C, and D, and this is purchasing land up in the Palm.
Mayor, I'll make a motion, motion to approve 5C1, A, B, C, and D to do a purchase and sale agreement with 2 sellers in Palmar.
We have a motion by Commissioner Marino.
Second.
We have a second by the Vice Mayor. Is there any further discussion on this item? This item does require a supermajority to move forward. So with that, all in favor, all opposed, that motion carries 6-0. Thank you very much. All right, moving on. We are now on to item 6A, Commission District Appointments. We can start with Commissioner Baxter. Do you have any appointments today?
I would like to, and I believe I already did this once, but it keeps coming up, so I'm doing it now for the record and clarification. Appointing Don Dufresne to our Tourism and Development Board. And that's it. Thank you.
Okay, and it's Don Dufresne, right? Right. We got that? We got it. Okay, good. All right. Vice Mayor, do you have any board appointments?
None at this time.
Thank you. Commissioner Marino, do you have any board appointments?
None at this time, thank you.
Commissioner Woodward, do you have any board appointments at this time?
Yes, I would like to reappoint Sam Caliendo to the Planning Commission and also reappoint Terrence Smolev to the Personal Appeals Board.
Very good, thank you. Commissioner Barnett, do you have any appointments?
No appointments at this time, thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, moving on, item 7A1, administration comments. None? Okay.
Just to request you receive and file the
So
directive.
moved. Oh, sorry. I'll make a motion, we receive and file.
So we have a motion by Commissioner Marino. We have a second by the Vice Mayor. All in favor, all opposed. That motion is carries 6-0. Receive and file. County Attorney, nothing. All right. Well, we will start. We'll start on the far end, the other far end, and this will be with Commissioner Barnett for your comments.
I'd like to request from the board approval for an off-site proclamation declaring June 2023 as Summer Reading Month.
We have a motion by Commissioner Barnett, a second by Commissioner Marino. All in favor, all opposed. That motion carries 6-0.
Thank you. I have no other comments.
Okay, Commissioner Woodward.
Yes, thank you. I would just like to say it was my first Memorial Day as an elected official, and it was my pleasure to go with the mayor and the vice mayor to celebrate at Veterans Park. And as I mentioned earlier, it's the anniversary of D-Day this year, which is, as if they were aware, my grandfather landed at D-Day, and we found all this out after he and my grandmother passed. But it was definitely a great experience for me to be able to honor everyone on that day, and I appreciate everyone being there. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Marino.
Thank you. With the passage of the airport bill, I'd actually like to request a workshop on our airports, plural. You know, we are number 5, our Palm Beach International is number 5 for our size in the country. And there are a lot of things that the airport does. We have parking renovations right now, so I hope everybody has taken notice that some of our parking is closed, but there are alternatives for that. But I would like to, you know, get an update, also because there's a lot of RFPs right now on the street. So August? Perfect. Okay, thank you very much. And with that, I just want to say Memorial Day, I'm sorry I wasn't able to join you down south, but there are a lot of conflicts up in the north end of the county, so I did attend the one in Palm Beach Gardens. And with that, I have nothing else. Thank you.
Thank you. I see Commissioner Baxter has lit her light.
I almost forgot, so thank you. That reminded me. Without objection, I had asked a while ago for a workshop on the agritourism section, and I just wanted to clarify if we could add in how it applies to the right to farm and the code enforcement. It all comes together because I keep getting constituent complaints, and I would just like processes and instruction included in that workshop, if we could, please.
Without objection. All right. All right, so moving on. So we'll move to Commissioner Baxter. Do you have any other comments? Okay, good. Not good, but all right. And Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to propose some committee changes on the Impact Fee Review Committee. I met with staff on May 17th to discuss an item regarding the proposed changes to the Impact Fee Review Committee. The committee has no representation for anybody in unincorporated Palm Beach County. There are currently 3 seats on the committee that are assigned to municipalities, and District 5 has no municipalities. So we basically are without representation on this very important committee. So I would ask that if we could have a change to add a member on that Impact Fee Review Committee to represent the folks in unincorporated Palm Beach County.
Administrator Baker, you're recognized.
What you approved today for preliminary reading and permission to advertise did add an additional at-large seat. Are you requesting that that particular seat be restricted to the unincorporated area, that whomever is appointed would come from the unincorporated area?
Absolutely, yes.
So that there are 2 seats being added, one specifically for AGC. And the other we added so that it would be an odd number, because that's how you want committees, so we can avoid ties. And that is an at-large seat. We already have one at-large seat. But this particular one, you want specifically for the unincorporated area.
It's important, Administrator Baker, that all the people in the county are represented. And without that representation on that seat, then all those thousands of people don't have a voice. And I appreciate you working with me on this issue, as well as staff. And absolutely, we do need to have those folks represented.
But it is just a recommending body, because everything that they do comes to us. So everybody has representation in the county once it gets here.
They better.
Well,
That's
it's
why I'm
us.
sitting here.
That's why we're here,
Where
right?
all my district is unincorporated. But yes, they need to have a seat at the table to make that recommendation. Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome. All right.
I have one other statement. On this board, we look at various issues on transportation and problems with zoning and code enforcement. But today was especially beautiful, I thought. And seeing this wonderful woman who works for us on the bus take care of that child, that young man, and the veterans and the students who work so hard on caregiving and the gun violence. It just really brings it all to mind that even though we're a county of facilities and buses and code enforcement, we're a county of people. I'm just so proud of our people today. And it just makes me proud to be a county commissioner. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Those are very kind words, Vice Mayor. Can you please make this request for me?
On behalf of the mayor, I would like to request approval for an off-site proclamation declaring June 19th through 25th, 2023 as Amateur Radio Week, and also approve for off-site certificate of recognition for Philippine American Society, Inc. for 24 years of service. So that would be two proclamations, one proclamation and one certificate of recognition.
We have a motion by Commissioner Marino. We have a second by the Vice Mayor. All in favor, all opposed, that motion carries 6-0. Thank you very much. We will be back at 2 o'clock for matters by the public. But before we go, I want to say, first off, we were together, some of us, on Memorial Day, recognizing the men and women and their families of the soldiers who have given their lives on behalf of this country. The ceremonies were incredibly moving and meaningful. It can't be lost on us the sacrifices that have been made to create this great nation by so many. So very, very thankful to be able to participate. Commissioner Woodward, your remarks and the work you all did to understand your grandfather and what he did and his recognition of his fellow soldiers was absolutely amazing and very, very moving to have you share that with us. So thank you very much for that. And you know, we are blessed to live in this great country. We have our challenges. We will continue to have challenges, but it's our ability to come together and work together to overcome those challenges. And we have done so in the past, and I am confident that we are going to continue to do so together. And it was just a great remembrance of those folks' lives lost to make this happen. So with that, we will be in recess until 2 p.m., and we will see you back after that.
Thank you.